of the Office of Special Prosecutor was an act in futility. But the Special Prosecutor, in an apparent quest to disprove this assertion, has come out with a list of achievements. He's giving his scorecard, which, Lawyer Samida Akon, who works in that office, has been sending it around. Quite a lot of it. We have a copy of it this morning. But this is what the Speaker said. Take a look.
Mr. Prosecutor, I did tell you that it was an act in futility. You were not going to achieve anything from that, but you went ahead to pass it. I disagreed with you, but I was alone. Well, I'm very clear in my mind that that authority is embedded in the powers of the Attorney General.
Well, we would have a conversation this morning because, you see, before the Special Prosecutor publicized the list of wrongdoings he has nipped in the bud and those he is prosecuting, we'll talk about it. And, he's been singing this Ankwanoma song and all of that. As to how that feeds into all what is happening, we would have a conversation this morning. The Ghana Education Service announced this week the interdiction of some head teachers who were found to have charged what was termed as illegal fees or unauthorized fees. An act the teacher unions like the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, and NAGRAT are not taking lightly at all. It's the free senior high school program, well funded, as the government would have us believe. Well, this is Angel Kambono, who is the president of NAGRAT. He makes the point that, look, they are going to advise themselves in the midst of all the difficulties that they are faced with. Take a look.
For me, if I'm a headmaster, now, I go to school and I work to the rules. I go to school and I work with what is available. If during examination time there are no examination papers, I'll write to my regional director with copies to whichever office, when I'll be waiting. When they bring it, we'll write the exams. And that is what every headmaster or every headmistress should do. I will not take phone and call any parent, because when I call a parent, I'm soliciting for the parent to provide for us, which flies in the face of the rules. Play according to the rules, work with what is provided. If food is inadequate, right. If there's no money for detergent, wait. Any parent who cannot come and take your child and go home. Work according to the resources that are available. So we have a problem on our hands.
We have a conversation on this, and you would hear a bit more from Angel Kambono as we go on. These shall be the key issues this morning for discussion. My name is Alfred Ocansey. My guests will be joining me right after this: Martin Bebo, Andia Piakobi, Bobby Banson, Bright Simmons will join us a bit later on the show as well. So we'll have a conversation this morning. Dr. Clementa Park will also be joining us right after this quick break. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
Hey, now no pay kwanya wo kasa kasa obwafo hu say.
Enya me brother Mr. Happiness na ha me. Me see wo hu say Ghana Post aye fast, reliable and affordable nti. Na nsen na numa ye ne de edwanye kuma me di e de koma no e fa Ghana Post. Wa di ni nyina. Ene se wasa aswan masa kodi dwa me de ko Ghana Post yo. Wei ko bi kakra Ajone kakra, akrantie so shase. Ghana Post,
the most affordable delivery option for food and merchandise from Ghana to everywhere in the world. Connect with us today and see for yourself. Ghana Post, smart, secure deliveries.
Mensaka the package, in less than 5 days, Ghana Post, they make life they be. Ghana Post will deliver to you wherever you are in the world.
Jingle bells all the way to a magical Christmas with Melcom this December. From 4th December 2023 to 7th January 2024. Save big with discounts up to 60% on countless items at any Melcom store nationwide. This offer is valid in store and online at www.melcom.com. Terms and conditions apply. Melcom, where Santa shops.
It's time for golden season. Time to try your luck. The rules are simple. You can place bets on any sports event. Get promotional tickets. Take part in prize draws. What's the season? It's golden season. Time to try your luck. Use the promo code to get your welcome bonus.
This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Bet responsibly, not for persons below 18 years. Gambling can be...
Oh no.
Mommy, hurry up.
We are out of cereal and there's no time to make something else.
Good morning, honey. What's the panic?
We are running late and I don't have anything for Kojo's breakfast.
Fear not. I've got just the right thing for you.
Macberry breakfast cereal biscuits. I've heard great things about it.
Biscuits for breakfast?
Yes.
Macberry breakfast cereal biscuits are made with goodness of cereals and milk for a good start to your day.
Wow, Mom, this is delicious. Oh, Mom, can we have this every day?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Why not?
You know.
So let's hurry.
Start your day with a smile and Macberry breakfast cereal biscuits. Goodness for your mornings. This advert is FDA approved.
This is Hot Issues, your passport to the most compelling conversations of our time. We go one-on-one with the movers and shakers, the thought leaders, and the game changers. We ask the questions that matter, and we don't back down.
Tonight on Hot Issues, I sit with the man at the Center of Corruption Investigations.
Join me on Hot Issues here on TV3.
Hot Issues shows Sundays at 2 p.m. on TV3.
TV3, first in news.
Our guest this week on Today's Woman is the multi-talented Cecilia Anobanie. She's an actress, a TV presenter, and of course, a fitness enthusiast.
I remember the way acting came along was, you know, I'm very animated.
Okay.
If you haven't known, you know now.
We're getting to know now. Her big break came in 2022 when she came out for 2 movies, The Agency and Terminus. You see the scenario that I threw at you?
Yeah.
So after the TV presentation, after the show, what's your next move on your husband and your best friend?
Where is he?
That she's here to spill all the tea on Today's Woman this week, this Saturday, 3 p.m. right here on TV3. I am Cookie T, and this is Today's Woman.
Today's Woman with Cookie T shows Saturdays at 3 p.m. on TV3. Brought to you by Latex Foam. Vlisco.
Do you want to be a star?
Semi-final round is here on Mentor Season 12. The competition gets fiercer and tougher as we inch closer to the grand finale. Catch all the action, emotions, and electrifying performances on the Freestyle Battle Edition this Sunday on TV3 Mentor 12. Our contestants will battle it out with each other in freestyles to wow their audiences and, of course, move a step further towards the grand finale. Which contestant makes it to the top 4 for the grand finale? Vote now to keep your favorite contestant in the competition and to win the ultimate mouth-watering prize package of over 150k worth of goodies and cash. Come join us this and every Sunday at TV3 Studio B at Desawe for the live musical experience. Studio audience must be seated by 7:30 p.m. sharp, or catch the live show on TV at 8 p.m. on TV3. Mentor Season 12. The world awaits you.
Mentor is brought to you by Heaven Black Insecticide Spray and Mosquito Coil. And Napa Foods Sense Body Spray.
Bell Ice, Vitamilk, Dragnet, Pepsodent Charcoal and Lemon Infused Formula and Pepsodent Natural Herbal Formula.
Darling Lemon Drink.
Frutelli Calipo.
Blackberry Lounge.
You're welcome back to Key Point here on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. We're also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale, and then also on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. I am Alfred Ocansey, if you've just joined us. But this week, the Speaker of Parliament was very convinced that he has been vindicated with his position that the Special Prosecutor's Office creation was an act in futility. Well, this is what the Speaker said in justifying this vindication that he feels. Take a look.
Office of the Special Prosecutor, I did tell you that it was an act in futility. You were not going to achieve anything from that, but you went ahead to pass it. I disagreed with you, but I was alone. Well, I'm very clear in my mind that that authority is embedded in the powers of the Attorney General, constitutionally. Who delegated to who? No, but that is not what you put in the act. What you just need to do is to fund the office of the Attorney General well and remove the Minister of Justice. You separate the two. Minister of Justice is a political appointee. The Attorney General is a technical person, and he only is ranked in conditions of service to that of a Minister of State. It doesn't mean they have to be incorporated to. Oh, I'm talking about the Constitution. No. I have it. I have my Constitution with me here. We are not Supreme Court, so we don't have that power. Yes, it's there, 881. I have no problem. I have no problem with Attorney General being a minister. I'm only saying you separate that from the Minister of Justice. Yes. Honorable members, so to have put the question on the...
So that's the Speaker of Parliament there, feeling that sense of vindication in all of this. There are some lawyers who have argued that there's some level of understanding to what the Speaker's position is because of a constitutional maybe error or mistake, for that matter, for the lack of better expression. We'll get into it. He makes a proposal that he would have wanted rather an independent Attorney General and then a Minister of Justice who is appointed, or a political person for that matter. We'll get into that proposal as well shortly. But if you take into consideration the Special Prosecutor's own frustrations and all of these songs of Ankwanoma that he's been talking and singing about all the while, it sort of gives credence to the feelings that the Speaker has about his work and the fact that all of these frustrations that he's facing could have been just as a result of the lack of clarity in the creation of his office. This is the Special Prosecutor a couple of weeks ago at the press conference.
Wait, let us bring before you the body of our investigation as evidence. And if you look at it and you decide that the evidence does not show up to the standard of proof required in criminal cases, then you can dismiss it. But don't prevent us from doing our work, from investigating. It is dangerous. As I said, I wasn't sounding as a prophet of doom, but there is doom looming ahead of us. That very soon, a murderer will boldly walk to court to seek an injunction. Should I feel frustrated and resign? I took an oath when I was sworn in. And in my life, when I take on the reins to do something, I do it to the best of my ability. Those who do not understand tree, please forgive me. They say I'm a unkwanoma. Me de me cry abo afore. Me ye de me to me.
So all of these unkwanoma things is what also some others feel like he's only just giving credence to what the speaker has been talking about. But after all of this, the special prosecutor started giving his scorecard. His office has been sending out, leaflets and flyers and statements detailing what he has been doing over the period as special prosecutor. Reason why the creation of the office is indeed important and impactful, contrary to what the speaker has been saying. My guests are seated. I'll run through just a brief of the scorecard of the special prosecutor as his office has been putting out this week. We'll have a brief conversation on this. Andy Apiakubi is member of parliament. He's a private legal practitioner as well. He's a member of a number of committees in parliament, one of which has been very busy this session. And they took the decision not to even hear this LI seeking to ban some 22 items. Asante Achim North member of parliament.
The man is going for re-election.
Indeed. We'll talk about that briefly. But Andy Apiakubi is here.
Who will not remind you of this.
Lawyer Andy Apiakubi, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, my brother.
Okay. Also with us is another private legal practitioner. He's not a member of parliament. He's the convener of the Comipre Reloaded demonstration. He's leader of one of the individual bondholder groups. Does that group still exist? Does it not?
Yeah.
What's the latest with the payment of your?
Well, right now payments are ongoing smoothly.
So you are getting small.
But if for real time messes us up again, then we'll be up in arms.
So right now the coupons are coming.
They are enjoying. We know Equifax fine because they become rich as a result of these bonds. Our aim is just to make sure that we should also be paid. They can't get very rich now, and then we should be impoverished. No.
So that group is still on?
Yeah, it's still on.
Thank you very much.
Aluta continua.
Aluta continua. Martin Kpebu is with us. Lawyer Martin Kpebu, good morning. Welcome.
Thank you.
Always. And Clement Apak, Dr. Clement Apak, is a former lecturer of mine and also the member of parliament for the Busa South constituency, and also the deputy ranking on the Education Committee of Parliament. Dr. Clement Apak, good morning. Welcome.
Alfred, good morning. But have you mentioned Busa South?
Yeah, I did.
I thought he was not going to.
I did. Yes, I did.
Member of Parliament for Busa
Yes,
South.
I did.
You know, we are getting into the season, so
it's important.
It is required. You can forget all my other credentials, but
the
always
Busa
my
South
name
must be emphasized.
and associate it with Busa South.
Including my very bad friend.
Oh, Andy. Just on a lighter note.
Yes.
Many don't know, but Andy and myself are mates.
I see.
We're in Legon around the same time. Yes. And in Commonwealth, and he was in
Ekwafu. Peaceful Ekwafu.
I see.
We almost impeached him, but he survived.
He started the impeachment process the very first day I was elected as president.
That's when he started the impeachment process.
The same day. It's crazy.
You've never known peace for quite a while now. Thank you so much.
We're a lot more vibrant.
Indeed. A number of you politicians are colleagues.
Yes.
At the various institutions. And you end up in politics on both sides. But also joining us shortly will be Bobby Bansing, his private legal practitioner as well. But gentlemen, it's good to have you. But, this is what the special prosecutor put out, the scorecard. Let's just run through it briefly. These are the prosecutions. He says the Republic versus Ejenim Boateng. You know, this is the trial of the former chief executive of the Public Procurement Authority, and his brother-in-law is ongoing before the Criminal Division of the High Court, Accra. As you know, Ejenim Eje has been charged on multiple counts of using public office for profit and directly and indirectly influencing. That's some influence peddling there. The next one is the Republic versus Alexander Kwabena, Suffolk and Tanka. Now, prosecution has also closed its case in the trial of this MCE nominee for jobbing in the Ashanti region for corruption in respect of a public election. Remember this MCE nominee going around going to collect his money that he gave to the delegates or the people. Anyway, let's go to the next one. There's Republic versus Cecilia Abnadapa, and the refusal to declare property and income as demanded by the OSP. And the plea of the accused yet to be taken, the docket yet to be assigned to the new judge, and the case has been adjourned to December 22. So that's something you should bear in mind. Getting into this week, this is one of the cases that the court will hear. Charles Edubuahin, Martin Pebu, your favorite. Charles Edubuahin. So after an exhaustive inquiry prompted by the president's referral regarding the former deputy finance minister's conduct in an investigative documentary by Tiger IPI titled Galamsey Economy, the OSP concluded that Mr. Edubuahin engaged in misconduct as a public officer and his actions constituted trading in influence. That's where it ended. You remember a couple of weeks ago there was this contention with you and Samid Akon whether or not this was what was in the report. Well, the OSP's own report indicates that he said it was trading in influence, influence peddling. But he stopped there, indicating that, yes, there is no specific law that...
why is there? Jantua. Republic versus Jantua.
So I'll start off with you on this. Let's start off. Let's. So this is the Speaker's position on the special prosecutor, that this office was an act in futility. Laba Bibansen, good morning. Welcome. Okay.
Good morning, Alfred.
Great. Good to have you.
Good morning to Senior.
Fantastic.
Morning, Bobby. Hi.
Great.
Yes,
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Bobby, you
Thank
good? Yes, I'm good, Senior.
Right. Let's start off with you, Lawyer Martin Pebo,
Yes.
on this OSP creation of the office and the Speaker's verdict, plus your own concerns you've had with the OSP over the period. Quickly.
Yes. Okay, so the Speaker, let's start. Mr. Speaker, well, you know, I always say that I like the whole idea that Mr. Speaker is from the NDC stock. At least it gives our democracy some vibrancy and some resilience. The fact that he got elected even though he's from the NDC, that's good. And since coming into office, he's done quite a number of things that are good. There are others who will criticize him for. It's normal. Nobody will get it 100%, okay? It's cool. Now, on this conversation too that he started, I see two main things in it. His asking substantively, the good point he makes is that he wants the office of the Attorney General, he wants the Attorney General to be decoupled, okay, from the Ministry of Justice. That one has been an old constitutional debate. You see, that's why I brought my Constitutional Review Commission reports and all those things here. In England, just to summarize, they have an Attorney General separate from the Minister for Justice. So that one I support. But the only side that I don't support is when he said the OSP Act is an exercise in futility. At least, Mr. Ocansey, even what you've recounted this morning shows that this is not futility. It's a work in progress. Naturally, you know, corruption is a difficult thing to fight. Corruption, you know, people who undertake corruption come into a lot of funds, and so they can fight and fight really well. If you are not even careful, they will defeat you. They would. So the fight is difficult. And so when you have a difficult fight, we shouldn't equate that to futility.
Okay.
From what you've recounted, you see that the OSP has done something. Of course, I have my challenges.
Could all of these have been done without the OSP's office?
I'm not sure. I say I'm not sure because, you see, before the OSP office was created, and if you Google, over decades, we've had these conversations from the 90s. From the 90s, that we started saying it appears an attorney general is not the best candidate to prosecute his colleagues in cabinet. That is us. We are Africans, right? We are Ghanaians. We are communal in nature. So there are some cultural basis for people saying, no, I don't want to sit in cabinet with you and then the next day prosecute you in court. So it's a conversation we had for more than a decade. More than a decade. So I remember the IAEA started championing the creation of the Office of the Special Prosecutor, I think from about 96 or so. So it's not even from the year 2000. These debates have been on for about 96. So it tells you that just at about the second term or in the Fourth Republic, other people contributed. So when you Google, you see that this is a debate we've had for over a decade before finally we created that office. And let's not underrate the importance of public opinion in our discourse. You see, governance is something that we usually take feedback. The presidents and the people in the executive office, they take feedback from the people. So this is a conversation that spanned over 10 years. Especially, and let's not even forget too that this OSP is not the first time. So we're just going back. We had a special prosecutor, public, prosecutor like that. The last person was Lawyer Pia. I think this man too, Bright Akwete also worked in that office, right? But Lawyer Pia was the public prosecutor. Eventually, he also got ensnared in corruption.
Dr. Akwete of IDEC.
No, Bright Akwete.
Bright Akwete, that's CDD.
Lawyer,
CDD.
Public, yeah,
yes.
No. Bright Akwete was a CDD, ran for president. Yes. Before then, he worked for the Attorney General. Yes. And before then, he was in the Attorney General's office. Then he was sent to Gambia, came back. Yeah, so he used to work in the office of the special prosecutor. And there was a law. So you see that what we are saying, the pith of this thing is that Mr. Speaker can't wish away, just obliterate the conversations we had for over a decade. Where was he? So he was in the minority, and democracy sometimes, that is the rule of the majority. But of course, we like to take into consideration very incisive and constructive dissent, right? But I'm saying that debate went on for long, and it appears there was a consensus that give it to an independent person. If he's saying that, look, you just go to Kenya. I was in Kenya some time ago, 2007, and then later 2018. They have a DPP, the Kenyan DPP. It's independent. You see
that's the Director of Public Prosecution.
Public Prosecution. You see the block they are now building for the Attorney General next to the, the court complex. The DPP has such a block in Kenya. The DPP is not a joke. In their constitution, insulated and everything. Ghana, our DPP is under the armpit of the AG. So the point I'm making is that if you're saying that, there's no need to create OSP, then long ago we should have had the DPP being very independent. Our constitution doesn't deal with the DPP like the way the Kenyan constitution. You open the Kenyan constitution, you see how the DPP is separate and independent. And I have seen it fiscal, even the office alone. What we are now trying to build for the AG, the Kenyans had the decades.
For the Director of Public Prosecution?
Yes, you go to the building, you see, building.
So, in your view, if the Director of Public Prosecution in Ghana was separate, independent, and functional, aside of the AG, then there will be no need for the Special Prosecutor's office.
Absolutely. But we haven't been able to do that. Politicians have always controlled the DPP. Politicians, small boys will come and control the DPP. That's always been it. The DPP has no voice. It's what the politician says, that goes. Sometimes you even have the DPP being several years ahead of the Attorney General, like we currently have. But currently, the Attorney General is the boss. Mrs. Obu-Bisa is years ahead of the Attorney General at the bar, far senior to the Attorney General. But Attorney General is boss. Attorney General has the last word. So we haven't done that enough. And I'm saying that, so we have always had a history of a public prosecutor. We are not saying we want to be like the Kenyans, though maybe it would have helped. But we had Lawyer Pia as a public prosecutor before then. He did work. He fought corruption. And then, of course, eventually corruption also defeated him, right? But we are trying again. And just like, Mr. Jabin, please, let's also put in this as we go. People are beginning to raise corruption against Mr. Jabin too. Martin Amidu, in his last episode, has started raising issues of corruption against Mr. Jabin. Please, let's watch it. Let's watch it. Mr. Jabin, we will not allow you. He says your friend. There's a write-up. So that man he mentioned, it's a full write-up.
Yeah, you've been
he says that that person goes to collect money. He's your distant friend or relation. Okay, he says he's in the breed. They equip him in there, and then he serves as the go-between. He seeks to take money to, quash or make some of the cases foolish cases and the rest. Look, such an allegation coming from Mr. Amidu deserves the greatest attention. Amidu doesn't make such allegations lightly. Please, Amidu doesn't make allegations of corruption against somebody lightly. So for him to have put that on paper, please, let's watch this. So maybe it's about time we also set some who watches the watchman, somebody to throw such light on corruption in the OSP office, please. And me, myself, I won't even hide it. I've said it before, the way the Dubois case goes, or the way it went, gives me suspicions. You see, I've always said it from day one. I'm like, why? Is it because Baumia is part of the Dubois case? Is it because, look at the way how the report came just about a week to the MPP primaries, the presidential primaries. Because Dubois said he was taking the shake to Baumia. You exonerated Baumia just about a week to the primaries. Was it to increase his fortunes in that election so that Kennedy Japan will be done? Was it to increase Baumia's fortunes in that MPP primary? Everybody was clear. He knew why he was going to Baumia. He knew why he was going to Baumia. So why do you exonerate Edubuahin a week to the MPP primaries? It's a question you will answer forever. Look, until we go into this case and have it prosecuted, no, we will not leave it. We are all Ghanaians. Because me, I support you, but I also know that you are human. There will be issues. So that's the good thing.
Okay.
We support you, but we also know that you are human. So just know that as we support you, we will also criticize you. That way the work will go on well. We can't just come sit here and do praise singing. So this is a Dubois matter. As I have said, we are doing research, more research. Look, Jantua was prosecuted under Section 252, influence peddling.
Okay.
There were other cases that were prosecuted under Section 252, influence peddling. That has to do, if you hear the Olenu Commission report, the current law that wants to reintroduce the import
restrictions are.
Yeah, and then the permits. So what the KT Amon wants to reintroduce permits to be able to import, blah, blah, blah. We had that in the 60s, and there was influence peddling. So to get the permit, you had to go see people who go influence. So that's what Jantua was prosecuted under. Right? And other cases. So when you come and say somebody takes money and says, I'm going to see another person to influence the person, then you say there is no law in Ghana on influence peddling.
So this is a case you want to be revisited?
Yes, absolutely. Mr. Jabin, that case, they don't play with it, please. Don't play with it. You made a mistake, just come back, let's correct it, and then you prosecute Edubuahin and also the GRA boss. Look, GRA boss, in the case of in October 20, just about 2 months ago, 2023, the Supreme Court held that GRA boss, you are the one to take administrative or issue administrative sanctions, take penalties against people who come into Ghana with more than $10,000. So it's a case I did. It's called Republic versus Daniel Gibson Azubuike. Okay. So they said you deal with that case administratively. So to the extent that Edubuahin came with $40,000, it's not late. That $40,000, he must pay penalties on it whilst OSP takes action to ask him to return that money so that and then the prosecution of that case will go on. So that Edubuahin will come and show how Baumia features in his plan. You think we are going to sit here? Look, even if he's deaf, we'll face it. That's how our democracy is built. If Kwame Nkrumah was scared, you think we would get here?
Matipepo, thank you. Let me bring in lawyer Andy Apiakobi as well on this, because the speaker, beyond his sense of vindication, also makes a proposal that the powers given the special prosecutor should have been left with a non-partisan attorney general while creating a separate minister for justice who will be a politician. In other words, who will be appointed, by the president. And that is something that you would have also worked in the stead of the OSP as an office.
Albert, in the spirit of Chinua Achebe, let me congratulate myself for the patience I've had this morning. because in spite of the unnecessary provocation in the reference to Dr. Bawumia, I have remained very quiet. And I think that as lawyers, we know that mere 1 million allegations does not constitute evidence. So the fact that somebody mentions somebody's name in a discourse doesn't provoke an invitation of anybody to prosecute anything. It may be wrong, it may be false, whatever he may have said. So we don't have to over-rely on that, except that when it is proven in the court of law, then we can, advert our minds to that. But somebody who is being interrogated saying that, oh, I was going to send so-and-so person to Apiakubi, then Apiakubi becomes a subject of investigation. But let us not push it to that level. I think the consolidation of the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice in one office is a constitutional default. And we need to treat the constitutional default and find a constitutional remedy through a constitutional process.
Okay.
It is not enough for any of us to sit anywhere and say that because I find it incongruent to put the two offices together in one office, it is not feasible, and for which reason we cannot create any other office. And I think it's simplistic to say the least. Having identified that, we don't also have to forget that that is our constitution. Indeed. And that is our greatest law. We have to be careful respecting the constitution, because the constitution as a whole becomes the embodiment of our jurisprudence in Ghana. And we cannot just tear parts and away in our effort to please our expectations. Indeed, we have a path to take if we want to clean our constitution. So let's resort to that if we want to do that. But as Martin has said, if you look at our criminal jurisprudence over the years, there has always been an attempt, one attempt or the other, to decouple the two offices. Because come to think of it, Minister of Justice is a special office that requires that you consciously attempt to manage the rights of people in the country. Make sure that there are no breaches in the enjoyment of rights, there are no threats and all that. So, and again, the Attorney General's office, as per the expectations of the Constitution, is also to prosecute. The same person who, by your one office, expects you to defend the citizens in matters of human rights, the same person, you are supposed to also prosecute the same citizens when there is a breach of any part of the law. So it is difficult. But as Martin gave the chronology of the historical antecedents, we ourselves as people of Ghana, we have always realized that our consolidation is not right. But let's find a way to do the constitutional remedy in good time and within the good process. The creation of the Director of Public Prosecution, the DPP, is also an attempt to find a prosecutor who will not be influenced by politics or by his appointment. But unfortunately, over the years, except one person, Jekedi,
yeah, he was strong.
He was strong. Right. He could resist political influence, and he would do it as it was.
And
then Misa. If I take these two persons in that office, they behave very well, and Jekedi, you will love him in prosecution. But since he left to join his ancestors, we haven't had a Jekedi in that office again. Mrs. Obuabisa, that's the name. Yeah, she is good. As a lawyer, as a prosecutor, she is very good. But to the extent that I cannot also think that she cannot also submit to maybe political directions. That one I cannot vouch. But for her competence, I have no doubt whatsoever. She is good, and if she could be, but again, it depends on you. Our politicians will try, but you resist any political influence, and that makes you a JKD. So let us try and let us fail. So the onus is on her as the public prosecutor to ensure that people see you as a person who cannot be compromised and therefore will not even make an attempt at all. But if you allow Appiah-Kubi to come and sit before you and throw some jabs at you and try to influence you, probably by way of my position in government, then it is your fault. It's your own doing. Nawara will Nawara. So once we had a JKD who said no to interference, we
that
can
means
always,
it's
we
possible.
can always have
It's possible
somebody in that possible position. But again, my good friend, OSP, the frustration he is sharing is unwelcome. I don't want to buy it.
The Ankwanoma and all
No.
It's unwelcome.
It's unwelcome. I won't buy it.
Why?
Because, I have given you the story of JKD. And indeed, there has been this attempt to create a particular office, a special office. And the office is designated to investigate and prosecute corruption and corruption-related offenses. You see, so it's a specialized office, not to mingle with the Office of Attorney General that prosecutes all crimes. And indeed, upon the creation of the OSP's office, I would have thought that the Attorney General will relinquish every prosecution in respect of corruption and corruption-related to that office, so that that is an attempt to create an independent office. So if, after all the effort we put in to create that office, you only come and say, I'm man, that kind of thing, I'm very disappointed. And I won't buy that.
Well, but that's his reality. That's what's happening in the office.
I mean, he must sit and make sure that that office becomes independent. And the independence of the office depends on him, not on anybody. Like I was saying, if you allow me to come and sit before you and throw my weight about before you, and that will influence you, then it means, and I have pointed to JKD and this way, they resisted, even during the military regimes. JKD will say no. And I said, I expect that kind of person in that office. You see, so if you cannot exert your influence in that office and ward off any attempts at undermining or influencing you, and you come out to cry that you are being intimidated or you are being influenced, you have allowed yourself to be influenced. As far as I'm concerned, there is no cry. So for me, I won't take that invitation to sympathize with him. He has to make sure that he enjoys his independence and he protects his independence, and he makes sure that people are afraid even to come to him, so that he will continue to manage his independence. But just to cry because people are influencing him, because you have opened the gate for people to come, and when they come, you are crying. And as long as the gate continues to be open, they will come. I'm sorry that me beyond the appointment into public office. If I was and
they've sidelined you because you led the crusade against Akufo-Addo.
We are not going there today.
But well done. God bless you.
If it happens
you'll never recover from it.
I was the OSP, I'm not sure that even people will attempt to come to me, because they see me as probably a non-compliant person. So they wouldn't even attempt to come to me.
They see you as a non-compliant person.
Because
non-conformist.
I think it's right. If I make a legitimate mistake, it will be a mistake.
Okay.
But for me to succumb to pressures and intimidation, I don't know intimidation. I don't understand it. So if you attempt to intimidate me, you get it wrong. You rather charge me to attempt to attack you if you intimidate me. That's my nature. So, and I'm sure a lot of my friends know this. So if I was appointed as an OSP, I'm sure Martin will not come to me and attempt to say, Andy, this is my friend, and that kind of thing.
You know, a lot of people say it's easier said than done. You espouse all of these principles, you get in there, and then you come face to face with the reality of the
for him to have led the 98 MPs against Akufo-Addo. When was the last time you could gather citizens, MPs like that? That thing, it was a what do you call it? A groundbreaking constitutional move. That parliamentarians, you could influence 98 of your colleagues to stand up against a certain president. Akufo-Addo will never recover from it. It was such a big indictment that Ofori-Atta should go. Ofori-Atta must go. Ofori-Atta must go. Congrats.
Martin, listen to me. I'm sure you were in the Supreme Court just a few days ago when I had a chance to argue before the
13th.
Indeed, I had brought application for the court to strike out what I call an unwholesome law. And, some debate ensued in the Supreme Court. I enjoyed the debate, albeit that at the end of the day, maybe other people thought that I was too hard, but at the end of the day also, I realized that there was good counsel from the court to the lawyers that let's listen to me. After all, if somebody comes to join, then it means that he or she is privy to the orders of the court, and therefore we should not find difficulty in serving the orders. I mean, that is the advantage in the joinder. So for me, I took it good that the court was rather giving me an opportunity to facilitate my service of my processes. And in any case, Mr. OSP, you have a beautiful opportunity. If you thought that people could influence you, if you thought that politics could undermine your work, now all of us are behind you, and you are saying that continue to do your work to the best of your ability.
Right.
And posterity will always not forget you.
Okay. Well, let me bring in Dr. Clement Tapak on this one as well. Well, the lawyer, Landiapia Kubi, doesn't sympathize with the OSP's frustrations and lamentations. But then again, it is on the basis of all of these happenings in the last few weeks that the speaker feels vindicated and all of that. Get the understanding that the OSP himself has lent himself to all of these statements by the speaker and others who think like him, that really, if his latest public outburst or outcry is anything to go by, then the office in itself, the creation hasn't had so much of an impact.
Well, Alfred, let me say good morning to you and my co-panelists. My voice is a bit hoarse, but I'll do my best.
Great.
Let me say good morning to the people of Bulsa South. My nickname is MPTV3.
MPTV3?
Yeah, because I've been associated with your network for who knows when, ever since I returned from my surgeons abroad. I've always been associated with TV3.
Indeed.
So, let's begin with the speaker's comments and why I perceive the motivation for his comment. You must remember that the speaker, at the time that we were looking at establishing the office of the special prosecutor, like many other Ghanaians, in fact myself included, and including our party, was in principle opposed to the establishment of the office of the special prosecutor. We were not opposed to it because we were against establishing an office, quote unquote, independent enough to fight the canker of corruption. But our concern was how a law that was going to create such an office was still giving room for subordination.
What do you mean?
I say so because if you look at the law as it is, and that was one of the sticking points, if you remember the debate, was that we claimed we were going to create the office of the special prosecutor and put somebody there who would deal with issues of corruption, particularly with regards to those who are politically exposed. But at the same time, we then say that the person must seek the authority or clearance. Ultimate decisions would have to be taken with the approval.
Doc, maybe give me 1 sec. It is because Constitution requires that Attorney General is the prosecutor.
Yes.
And it's a constitutional position.
Andy,
so you couldn't change unless you change the Constitution.
I'm not arguing. So that was the issue. And you see, to many, that component of it still makes the special prosecutor not truly independent. Because at the end of the day, well, he may do his work, have his findings, may be able to make them public or not make them public. But there is an entity above him that can say, yes, go with this, or don't go with this. In that case, what do you do? I see that has been the issue, and I think that is where the speaker comes in to make the comment that he makes, and then speaks to the debate and the long-term argument that we ought to look at separating or decoupling the Attorney General from the Minister for Justice. So you see that the speaker did not just make his comment in isolation. There was a link. And I think we ought to understand the speaker within that context. And quite frankly, you see, some of us were of the opinion that the motivation behind the then MPP opposition, the mantra to establish the office of the special prosecutor, and the way they spoke was as though the office was coming to deal with their political opponents. The special prosecutor was solely being trumpeted, and the argument to bring such an institution into place was to target what was then perceived as grand-scale corruption perpetrated by the SY NDC-led John Mahama government. And that has not happened. In fact, interestingly, if you look at the commentaries that we have heard from my uncle Martin Hamidou, the first special prosecutor, how he was even brought in, the commentaries around what he was expected to do. And what we are now hearing from Mr. Kisia Jabe, a.k.a. Ankwanuma, who essentially is feeling powerless. He feels powerless. He feels left alone. He is feeling that he is not being given the needed support to deliver. You see how even people associated and aligned with the MPP are speaking, even about Kisia Jabe. They did that with Martin Hamidou. At least we can grant them that. Some of them were of the opinion that my uncle Martin shouldn't have even appointed in the first place. They had all kinds of issues, and it was done. We all had expectations. They had their expectations. We had our expectations. But they fell out of love with Martin Hamidou because what they wanted him to do and how they wanted him to do it was not what they were getting.
Was that really the case?
Well, of course, you can read some of the epistles of Martin Hamidou. I mean, my uncle is not somebody who is very secretive. I mean, he is written to extent that he's even, named the president the mother serpent of corruption, which has come to stay. And then you see that Kisia Jabe is going through the same. Although Martin Hamidou has differences with Kisia Jabe in terms of the approach, the public discourse around the office of the special prosecutor, and for lack of a better word, the bashing of the special prosecutor, the current special prosecutor, if you read what is going on in the media landscape, is coming a lot more from MPP stock and affiliates. And you ask yourself, why? Why? Because for some reason, they feel that he ought to be going after their political opponents. Some are not comfortable that he's taking up issues to do with Cecilia Dapa and matters to do with the Dubois and investigations about current and present government appointees and persons affiliated with the ruling party. And so they are saying if he can't do the job, he should resign. So this is a very nuanced issue. It has become a lot more like the proverbial elephant. You can hold the tail and describe it. You can hold the trunk and describe it. You can hold the foot and describe it. But the key and important matter is this. Is the special prosecutor being allowed the needed room to function and do his best as far as the law establishing his office is concerned? That is where we should be focused on the argument. Because whether we like it or not, the office has been created. We have an officer who is being paid by the taxpayer to help us fight graft, fight corruption, and retrieve public resources that have been illegally appropriated or acquired by people who ought to be serving the national interest and who have no business trying to enrich themselves at the expense of the taxpayer.
True.
So for me, I see the speaker's comment within the context of the broader narrative, going back to the very beginnings of the debate towards establishing the office, vis-a-vis whether it wouldn't be better for us to decouple the position of the Minister for Justice from the Attorney General. So in that sense, I don't think that the speaker has been harsh, or I don't see his commentary as not being tasteful.
I see. But then there's this position that you've had a number of the lawyers here raise about what the constitutional provision or position is. But at this point, let me bring in Lawyer Bobby Vanson briefly, and I'll come to you, Dr. Clement Park again. Lawyer Bobby Vanson, at least for this statement comes on the back of what the special prosecutor has been saying himself. After the speaker's verdict on the office, he has been putting out his scorecard. Some of the cases he's been up to, in fact, the likes of Professor Jampo believe that he shouldn't be touching too many things at the same time, touch and go, touch and go. But then again, you get the sense that there are people who agree with the speaker's position because of the special prosecutor's own public outburst or outcry about what is happening in his office and what has been going on. In fact, saying that if things don't change, he sees doom ahead, and that this fight against corruption cannot be won if things are going this way. If he is going to keep losing cases like this, he expresses some dissatisfaction with the way the judiciary is treating him and so on after the cases that he lost continuously in court a few weeks ago as well. Take that into consideration and the speaker's comments. Would you say that the speaker has some level of grounds in also making reference to the fact that just maybe if we had taken the route of having a minister of justice who is a politician but an attorney general who is independent and not appointed, we would have probably achieved the same results?
Alfred, good morning once again, and greetings to my very noble seniors at the bar and Honorable Apak in the studio. Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly.
Yes, I want to think that the OSP's, for lack of a better word, lamentations was in relation to what he deemed or seen to be non-cooperation from the judiciary in respect of him discharging his statutory obligations. I do not think that he was necessarily saying that he was getting interference from the executive per se. You would recall that in Mr. Martin Amidou's time, his lamentations were because, in his opinion, he was not getting cooperation from the executive, or the executive were trying to influence the discharge of his statutory obligations. But from what I heard Mr. Kissie Jabin say during that presser, I think he was focusing more on the fact that he wasn't getting the necessary cooperation from the judiciary. And so his prediction that if the trends proceed this way, there will be doom, I think that it was more towards, or only towards, the reaction of the judiciary as he saw it towards the discharge of his obligation, and not because he thought that there was executive influence in his the discharge of his obligation. That is my appreciation of it. Now, come to the basis of this lamentation, the perceived non-cooperation with the judiciary. I think, or I was hoping, that after the passage of the OSP Act, there would be a conscious attempt by either the Attorney General's office or even the OSP's office itself to have some form of sensitization, or I don't want to use the word training, but some sort of orientation with the judges. And it's not uncommon, because in our jurisprudence, whenever there's a new law that is passed, or even an amendment of an existing law, you see that the statutory authority that is in charge of implementing that law sometimes organizes meetings with judges to explain the rationale behind the law and the basis, the operational practicalities of implementation of that law. And so, for example, the GRA, I know sometimes they have those seminars. Sometimes they are held by foreign donor agencies, but I have not seen that happen yet with the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act. Perhaps that may create the lacuna where the special prosecutor, because let's be minded that the provisions in the Special Prosecutors Act are not like any other existing act that we have that seeks to fight crime or corruption per se. And so maybe it is about time the Office of the Special Prosecutor engages the judiciary to have I think they have the Judicial Training Institute that organizes these trainings for judges when it comes to new laws, so that the judges would appreciate exactly what the intendment or the intention of the framers of that law was, so that there will be, for lack of a better word, ease of appreciation and application of that law. So I hope that the OSP takes that approach, and then it will bridge the gap that he sees exist between his office and the judiciary, and it will not be out of place. It is something that is normally done when a new law is passed. Now, secondly, to what I think of the comments by the Honorable Speaker of Parliament, I agree with Senior Martin Pebu that I think that it is not true that the creation of the Office of the Special Prosecutor is a waste of resources. I mean, yes, we have all clamored that we have to get to a time where the Office of the Attorney General would be separated from the Minister of Justice for good reason. Now, the good reason essentially being that we want somebody devoid of political influence who would be able to pursue politically exposed persons and political appointees when they engage in corrupt practices or criminal offenses related to such practices. As it stands now, Article 88 has not been amended, and Parliament has gone through the process of enacting the Office of the Special Prosecutor. And so if the Office of the Special Prosecutor has been created by law, I believe that all the institutions must provide that office the necessary cooperation. Remember, we say that we need to create strong institutions and not strong personalities. And so whatever the other arms of government must do, the judiciary, the executive, the legislature, to ensure that this office is created for the purposes for which the law says it should be created, I think that it behoves on all of us to do it. If the OSP office fails, it is not an indictment on only the person who is in charge. It is an indictment on us as a country. Remember, with the corruption index worldwide, the creation of the Office of the Special Prosecutor gave Ghana a certain leverage. That is a very important step that the country has decided to take in its attempt to fight corruption. And so if we sit there and let that office fail, then it will come back to bite all of us, give us that international image that we do not want. So I do not agree that the office of the OSP was a needless creation, but I think that all the arms of government must give that office the necessary cooperation. That does not mean that if the office takes a step that contradicts the law or its enabling act, we should all sit down and watch it. But as much as possible, the cooperation that is needed to ensure that that office, not the person, that office, not the person succeeds, I believe that we should do that. When you listen to Dr. Apak, you would see the political connotations to some of the reasons that have been laid as being the reason why some agree with the creation of the Office of Special Prosecution and some do not. And that is where I think sometimes affects the way that we see the work of the office. Because if we attach politics to everything, which unfortunately we seem to be doing in many aspects of our national discourse, then we are not able to bring to bear the real reasons why things ought to be the way they are. Because we are always thinking, okay, is it for political purposes? Is it for witch hunting? If that continues, it will be very difficult. And you would see that with this special prosecutor, at least whether we are happy with the outcome of the investigations or not, he seems to have gone after people that have been appointed by this arm of government. And so, yes, we may question the outcome of the investigation, but the fact that he's been bold enough to go after persons that have been appointed by this government for perceived acts of corruption or related offenses, I think that it deserves some form of credit. It may not be full, but some form of credit, because you may have people that will not be bold enough to go after this. And so in all, I think that office, again, I keep emphasizing, it is not about the person leading it. It is about the office. But that office should be given the necessary support so that it will not fail. And I believe that if we have a very strong and effective institution like the Office of the Special Prosecutor, in the long term, Ghana as a country will benefit.
But if you say that you expect the necessary support and cooperation to be given to the office, take into consideration the fact that the OSP's latest public outcry, or the frustrations and all the lamentations he came out with, was on the back of losing a number of cases continuously in court. And then he says that if things continue this way, he sees doom ahead. How do you expect some people sitting at the back to think?
As lawyers, you do not always win. And mind you, the cases that has been said that he lost were lost at first instance. Our constitution gives us rights to appeal right up to the Supreme Court. And so the fact that the OSP has lost a case but in the High Court does not mean that he doesn't have a right of appeal. I believe that if he believes strongly that what he was doing was right, and the court at first instance, which is the High Court, misinterpreted or misapplied the law, he has a right to appeal to the Court of Appeal and a subsequent right to appeal to the Supreme Court. And that is why that I do not think that coming out the way he did was the best in that instance, because you've not exhausted the entire legal process. If he had exhausted the entire legal process, then maybe he would have said, okay, I did my best, but the judiciary seemed to disagree. But you are only, concluding that the judiciary is against you because you lost at the High Court. And so, like lawyers do, when you lose at first instance, you have a right to appeal. And the fact that you lost at first instance does not mean necessarily that there is a disposition or a policy by the judiciary to frustrate your work. And I think that the way and manner in which he presented his public outcry, for us is being described now, or lamentations, would give the ordinary person that view that the OSP's office has concluded that the judiciary is set against him. But there are some cases that he's still handling in the judiciary that he has not lost, or that there has not been for lack of a better word, frustration. And so if you balance the two acts, that is why I said that if he is of the opinion, that is the OSP's office is of the opinion that the judiciary does not appreciate the provisions of the OSP Act, nothing stops him from engaging, maybe through the Attorney General, the Judicial Training Institute, or the Chief Justice, to organize that orientation. And it is not uncommon. I've seen it done or read about it done with new laws that are passed, so that the judges will come up to speed. Perhaps he may be able to lay before them comparative analysis from other countries, because you see, this is the first experience we are having with the Act. And so if there are comparative analysis from other countries, how similar provisions have been interpreted and applied, and there's judicial training, for lack of a better word, on it, maybe it will help this cause.
I see. And I'm running up on this matter. Dr. Clement Apak,
yes,
really?
I was just going to make a quick
one.
You notice that when Martin Amidu was the special prosecutor, most of his complaints, publicly, and even through some of his right stands, were that he was not getting cooperation from the executive, and that there were deliberate efforts to frustrate him as far as his work is concerned. Now, for the current special prosecutor, his challenge, as he indicated publicly, has to do not with the executive, but the judiciary. So either way, it tells me that there is still something that has not been done. And maybe that is where I may agree with Bobby, and then even lawyer Martin Kwebu, that perhaps what the office needs is unalloyed public support to rally around the office, to give the office the needed boost to make it capable of withstanding any pressures or influences or obstacles that may come from any arm of government to seek to frustrate the work. But maybe in the future that may require some other laws to be made or some adjustments to be made. And hopefully, when we finally get the opportunity to review the Constitution, these are some of the matters that we ought to look at. But all in all, the office has served some purpose, at least if for nothing at all. It has been able to bring exposure and at least has been able to wheel in certain entities and personalities who the traditional setup clearly could not have even dreamt of taking on. So that in itself, I think, is a credit that we have to concede.
I see. So, Matibebu, 1 minute. So this is an office that you expect that the subsequent government would maintain. For instance, if it's just but for the benefit of analysis, if the NDC comes, you expect that OSP, that office will be maintained?
Oh, absolutely. No doubt at all about it. We have to maintain it because you see what Bobby said. And let me quickly, even before I continue, Bobby, I side with you about the comparative analysis. Yeah, because this law, when you talk to people in the OSP, they keep making the point that their law is unique. It's unique. So where we copied it from, they should bring the jurisprudence, how the courts have dealt with the provisions. You see, Honorable Yunus Afseni said they went to Malaysia, others went to different countries. So bring the court decisions from those countries. We need to gather. Yeah, I had made that same point, Bobby, to some of the people I had spoken to in the past. So I'm happy you also agree. Because we are learning. You see, you went and copied something from somebody's country. Why don't you bring along the court decisions
in that country?
Yes, so that we compare. Because if you don't, and you just say, you know, here we are limited. We don't have enough resources in terms of seeing how you can access cases from those countries. The books are expensive, etc. So bring them at least at the cost of the state. Then let's also learn. Then that way it makes it easier. So as for keeping the office, it should go on. As I said, this is not the first. We are just continuing our history. Lawyer Pierce, public prosecutor office had always been there. So we just went back to it. And so we are not about to scrape it. Of course, but let's mention in passing that lawyer, Crunchy Daily Searchlight, he has filed the Supreme Court challenging the constitutionality
of the office.
Okay. So we'll see what the Supreme
We'll see how this case plays out. But that leads us into our next issue, but because it's still having to do with the issue. Yes.
Sorry, yes, thank you. To summarize, I think that Ghana, we think that we need an independent prosecutor. From the conversation.
So Director of Public Prosecutor must be independent.
Must be an independent prosecutor. How to do it is the problem.
Right.
And you see, the Constitution has entrenched provisions, and this one comes under the entrenched provisions. So we cannot do it by just an act of Parliament. So it means that when we are ready to amend our Constitution, this is also one of the things we have to do to try to make sure that we separate the two offices. Again, the logistical support that Mr. Amidu cried for, the judicial frustration, so in quotes, that current OSP is crying for, the public support that my good friend is advocating for, they are all not capable of amending the law. You need to go through the Constitution and constitutional processes to amend the law to provide us with the independence that we require. And when that is done, then the courts will respond. In fact, if we blame the courts, we may not have done a good job because the courts will interpret what the law is. And on a particular occasion, when I followed the prosecution in court, I realized that the prosecutor himself did not avert his mind to the laws upon which he was prosecuting. And then it was easy for the court to dismiss the matter because he was not responsive to his law. Again, when we were enacting the OSP Act, I personally, on one occasion, told the House that I'm not sure that we are referring to experiences in the courtrooms. And therefore, we are crafting the law as literature people, just bringing out English language, which would not have effect in the courtroom. And I remember somebody telling me, Andy, sit down, let's go on. And you see, but when operational people are talking, we have to listen. Because you create a situation, a law, when you create a law with the intent that is wrong, it may end up harassing and intimidating you, yourself, the creator of the law.
I see.
So you create the law for the common good of the people, not for individuals or sections of the people. Then it comes to haunt you.
So the intention of the OSP indeed is also one thing we have to look at.
We were not too careful in creating that law. And we were not also mindful of the constitutional limitations
in creating that
law. And we were not also mindful of the inconsistencies and the possible conflict between the offices.
Interesting point. Now, this is key point. We're also live on 3FM 92.7. The 11 senior high school head teachers who have been interdicted for charging or taking unapproved fees is our next issue, because the committee that has been established to probe this matter has, we understand, has started sitting. The teacher unions say in future they want these cases to be referred to them for them to deal with as well. But there are issues in there as to why exactly these teachers took this initiative. Was it because they wanted to address a problem that they are faced with to avoid the children or the students being affected? And how could that have been done to avoid all of this? This is Angel Kabono, who is the president of NAGRAT. I want you to hear him because right after this, we'll go for a quick break. We'll come back and Dr. Clement Tapak will deal with that matter first. Take a look.
For me, if I'm a headmaster, now, I go to school and I work to the rules. I go to school and I work with what is available. If during examination time there are no examination papers, I'll write to my regional director with copies to whichever office, when I'll be waiting. When they bring it, we'll write the exams. And that is what every headmaster or every headmistress should do. I will not take phone and call any parent, because when I call a parent, I'm soliciting for the parent to provide for us, which flies in the face of the rules. Play according to the rules. Work with what is provided. If food is inadequate, right. If there's no money for detergent, wait. Any parent who cannot come and take your child and go home. Work according to the resources that are available.
Wish you a Merry Christmas.
Fellow Ghanaians, higher Papa, Enyo. The higher we go, the highest we go day. Higher a global #1 home appliance brand. We enye gidi. Opa check your net so. Higher our home appliance BRB, from fridges, deep freezers, air conditioners, washing machines, gas cookers. After news nini, higher double Christmas celebration. Bronya double savings, abeton also. If you see that, Bronya way, so would you hire washing machine, submarine series, you know, and as a gas cooker, Yatisu boom talent, such your microwave oven for free. Season ya, so we to hire TV, 50-inch, and as a 55-inch, Yacha 32-inch television, Eka for free. Zaga Walata.
And they call from New Year.
Higher double Christmas celebration. Our Cup from Ghana Limited throughout the festive season. Higher global #1. Higher inspired.
Chartered Institute of Realtors presents the biggest property festival set to hit Ghana this December. It's the Ghana Diaspora Property Festival, an event designed to promote investment in the Ghanaian real estate market. The date is 22nd and 23rd of December. The venue, Accra International Conference Center. The time is 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily. Oh yes, come with your family and friends and interact with a diverse array of exhibitors, including local and international property developers, construction firms, construction equipment manufacturers, suppliers, sanitary ware companies, home appliances, and decor firms, among others. The side attractions for this event include the kids' playground, art exhibitions, and many more. To register for this event, call 0302-792-589 or 0273-300-075, or you can email us at GhanaDiasporaPropertyFestival.com or sign up on eventbrite.com for more information. This event is open to all.
Hey, now no fair one kasa who say. And my brother Mr. Happiness and Hame. Missy who say Ghana Post I fast, reliable and affordable. Now saying na numa yani de janya kuma mi di e de kwama no e fa Ghana Post. We're dinning now. And it's a was a swan massacodija, medical Ghana Post you. Wait, Kobe Kakra, Ajane Kakra, I can't hear so sassy. Ghana Post,
the most affordable delivery option for food and merchandise from Ghana to everywhere in the world. Connect with us today and see for yourself. Ghana Post, smart, secure deliveries.
Mensa coming package, no. In less than 5 days, Ghana Post, they make life they be. Ghana Post will deliver to you wherever you are in the world.
The news never stops. If it's not breaking, developing, the news lends itself to significant analysis, broad context through explainers, and the features that gives stories more life. That's what we offer on Weekend Central. News, features, analysis, the full package. Weekend Central, Saturdays and Sundays at 12 p.m. on TV3.
TV3, first in news.
It's that time of the year again. 5 years of scintillating party experience for you at the 3FM party. Well, the 28th of December, we're bringing it back, rebranded, rekindled, reloaded, repackaged.
Invite your staff, come and give your best clients the most memorable experiences by buying a few tables. Join us at the 3FM All-White Party.
Expect incredible live performances from top artists, Stoneboy, Manifest, KK Fusu, and Aquaba. Oh, and fire DJs on rotation.
I don't walk around in the Philippines with the Philistines. I'm Dutch in any vicinity, I fulfill a dream.
Don't forget, it's the 28th of December. It's a Thursday. You don't want to miss out on this ultimate party experience.
The 3FM All-White Party is proudly sponsored by SoccerBet and powered by 92.7 3FM. The 3FM All-White Party on December 28th at La Palm Royal Beach Hotel. We bring the party, you bring the vibe.
Shake your body, yeah. Ngami, for the journey.
This week on the Lady Circle, we're doing things a little different.
Well, if you've ever wondered how to make your own stuff at home, baking and making some DIY creative stuff, then this episode is for you.
If you're a numda like me, like you love sweet things, I mean, I love to add extra chocolate.
Ida, you know what? I was eyeing the chocolate chips, but I didn't want to be the one to say.
You should understand.
So how big or small you want it will determine how many flowers you should use.
Anita gets number 1, Sika 2.
Who's guilty of overeating during the festive season? Very I'm about guilty. to do that. You join myself, Sika, Anita, Ida.
And joyous as we make your holidays very special.
The Ladies Circle shows this Saturday at 6 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by Yaz Sanitary Pad,
Onga, Yumvita,
MTN,
Woodin,
Cowbell, Our Milk,
Gluten.
For me, if I'm a headmaster, now, I go to school and I work to the rules. I go to school and I work with what is available. If during examination time there are no examination papers, I'll write to my regional director with copies to whichever office when I'll be waiting. When they bring it, we'll write the exams. And that is what every headmaster or every headmistress should do. I will not take phone and call any parent. Because when I call a parent, I'm soliciting for the parent to provide for us, which flies to the face of the rules. Play according to the rules. Work with what is provided. If food is inadequate, right. If there's no money for detergent, wait. Any parent who cannot come and take your child and go home. Work according to the resources that are available.
That's the president of the National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT, Angel Kabono, there. This was after 11 head teachers of senior high schools across the country, in fact, a number of them from the Ashanti region. We'll put the areas and the senior high schools on the screen shortly. The Greater Accra region, the Ashanti region, and then the Eastern region. A number of them you see there with the that's Kumasi Girls, Nzima Agric Community Senior High School, Asantiman Senior High School, the headmaster there you see as well, the Nkarie Senior High School, or Domasiman Senior High School in the Bono region, and then also another one in the Ashanti region. 11 of them. They've been suspended for charging unauthorized fees. When you look at some of the prospectus that some people have put out, we will show it as we go on. But Dr. Clement Park,
yes,
here's the position that the teacher unions have taken now, that in their view, listening to, because a number of these head teachers are members of NAGRAT and NAT, interacting with them, they say that because government allocations to the senior high schools don't come in early. And sometimes, for instance, detergents and very basic things gets finished. In a bid to be creative and innovative in solving their own problems, they go out to either solicit support from the parents or some other means. And that is what has landed them in trouble this way. And so Angel Kabonu says, well, if this is going to get you into trouble, just wait. Sit down there, even if detergents are finished. But that presents another problem because the children will be left with nothing.
Alfred, it is for good reason that your good self and your producer decided to invite me to today's program. Because I sit on the Committee on Education and I interact with, the key stakeholders in the educational sector. Now, it is important to underscore a few basic issues. We have all agreed that having a policy that makes it possible for every Ghanaian child of school-going age to have quality, accessible education. It's important. That is why we started with the FQ. And now we have continued on. Now, the concept of the free senior high school is not new. And even before the introduction of this variant, and I say variant because, others have proposed different forms of it. The debate was whether or not, as a nation state, we could marshal the requisite resources to truly say that we are investing in secondary education
to an extent that we can call it free. As we speak today, if you were to look at the website of the Free Senior High School Secretariat, which has now been moved from the office of the president to the ministry, there are about 12 cost centers that government has taken upon itself to bear, which then defines free. So free boarding, free tuition, free admission, free core textbooks, and I know them. But the problem we are having is this. For some reason, in spite of the fact that this program has received the biggest chunk of education sector funding since its inception, the implementation of the policy is still bedeviled with a number of challenges. And that is why many stakeholders, myself included, our flag bearer included, have been calling for a review, a national stakeholders forum, to look at the program, see where it has done well, reinforce that, where it has fallen short, try to address those issues, and to situate it in a way that would give us value for money. We are currently dealing with a situation where headmasters, many of whom, for good reason, and to try and fill the gaps that are gaping, and if not taken care of, could affect teaching and learning, are now in trouble. I say some, because there are some instances that when you see what is said to be demanded by the schools from, the new students and parents within this round of admission, is questionable. But by and large, many of them are trying their best to let a system that is challenged run. And that is why the leader of NAGRAT, Angel Kabonu, has made a statement that he has made. Because the truth is that a lot of the heads of our secondary schools are performing magic.
They're performing magic
to ensure that the system runs. We have instances where government has delayed in disbursing feeding fees, for example, for perishables, 30%. Now, how do you expect the schools to run when they have no other source of revenue? Because you have said that the schools are not allowed to charge any form of fee whatsoever. And if they do, there will be sanctions. At the same time, you are supposed to disburse 30% of the feeding fee for them to buy perishables. In this case, tomatoes, onions. And if that money doesn't go, how do you expect the headmasters to be able to keep the students in school for teaching and learning to continue? You spoke about detergents. They obviously have to use washrooms. They have to clean the washrooms and toilets. So if those monies don't go for the schools to procure detergents, can you imagine the situation in terms of the hygiene and the health consequences? And then you look at issues like utility. In fact, not long ago, some schools had their utilities cut off.
In fact, and Kabano made the point that the prepaid subventions have not been given as yet.
Exactly.
And the schools have reopened.
Exactly.
So they don't have prepaid electricity.
Sometimes they don't have electricity. And although government pays, the manner in which government has arranged with, the producers of electricity to pay is at a national level. At a local level, we see situations where the ECG, Ghana Water officers at the local level do not seem to be in consonance with their national officers. And I asked this to the minister at committee just 3 days ago, all of these issues. And even he admitted. So the point Kabonu is making is that do not jeopardize your personal integrity as members of NAGRAT do not allow yourself to be sanctioned and publicly embarrassed for trying to use creative ways to deal with situations that you have not caused. So if there is no water, there is no water. Don't go and try to levy students or parents or get the PA. We no longer even have PTA. It's PAs. Parents Association. Don't do it. If there are no detergents to wash the washrooms and clean the toilets, so be it. And so we are now in a very critical situation where the punishment that these headmasters are facing and the admonition by their mother union is now going to even expose further the challenges that many of us have been talking about with regards to the implementation of the policy. And I agree with Angel. Look, government says that don't do this. Don't do it. Don't try to be Father Christmas. Don't try to cover up.
Even when the situation presents a challenge?
Even when
the situation presents a challenge, for instance, detergents are finished.
But what are they to do? So they are finding creative ways of dealing with these matters, and that elicits sanctions. And you see, we are all human beings. We have dignity. We have self-pride. We have integrity. And so if you are going to try and let the system that is challenged work, and you are going to be publicly shamed and punished, why should you do it? But that is not to excuse or to make a blanket statement suggesting that perhaps there are no headmasters who may be seeking to exploit a situation. No, I am not holding brief for the headmasters.
Right.
But wrong is wrong, right is right. Follow the rules of the game as presented to you by the Ghana Education Service and the ministry. When the issues become public, as the Americans would say, if the SHIT hits the fan, we will all know. And then we will all then agree that, hey, it is not going well. Let's do this, let's do this, let's do that. So I think the import of Angel Carbonu's statement is out of frustration. That why are you killing yourselves and allowing yourselves to be publicly shamed and ridiculed for trying to mobilize resources and use ingenious and creative ways to deal with matters that ought to have been dealt with by government. This is what he's trying to say. And I agree with him.
When this came out, some people said that if the head teachers wanted to be innovative and creative or take an initiative, then they should also make it formal, right, to the GES or Ministry of Education to notify them that this is what they intend to do. How about that?
Look, Alfred, I hold here, and I've shared this with you so many times. This is a communique of the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools, CHAS. Every year when they meet, they produce a communique. If you go through this, you would understand. And every year that they are holding their conferences, they invite either the minister and or his deputies. I know there are instances where the president himself has attended, and they issue this communique. I can tell you that government has never really given attention to this communique. If you read the content, and if government were to be minded to address the issues that they raise year in, year out, and we don't have time, if not, I can read them. I mean, to do with the food system, the buffer stock, the under-invoicing, over-invoicing, the supply of unwholesome food, the fraud going on, the delay in the disbursements of the monies, the fact that library and ICT fees have not been paid since 2017, and which ought to be paid, challenges to do with, school apparel. I mean, the issues are so many.
That's the uniforms.
Yes. So it is not for lack of presentation of their issues to government.
So this is all of these challenges are captured in this community.
All of these matters are captured. It is a what? a 20-point communique. 20 points. I mean, you can go through it. So what do you want them to do? If Charles is not being listened to, and Charles represents the headmasters, and so Kabonu is saying, look, you have done your part. If they will not listen to the issues and address them, don't try so hard to be the hero. Let it be. Let the place be smelly. Let the flies be hovering around. Let the kids get sick and go home. And then action will be taken. So that is essentially what Angel Kabonu is trying to say.
Mantimo, you have stated your position on the free senior high school policy. And then again, if you look at these challenges, and even at a point, the accountant of government, I'm talking about the finance minister, made that proposal that left to him, if I had parents who can pay, be made to pay. The challenges of this free SHS are quite evident. But then again, you have government very strong on its position to do wholesale financing, including boarding fees, as we have seen. And then the teachers take this initiative, they'll get themselves in trouble. So now the resolve is that, well, we will sit back and wait. No matter how long it will take for government subventions to come in. This is what we intended to do, so we'll stay out of trouble. Lawyer.
Okay, so Mr. Ocansey, I see 2 points here. The thing about funding and also the proactive steps taken by the head teachers, even though some, even though it appears those may not be in accordance with law. But I commend them. Except those who probably were taking the money to benefit personally. Okay, if they were taking those monies to benefit personally, no, those ones I don't support. But those who took the initiative, even though illegally, to be able to help the students, to be able to ensure smooth administration of the schools, I support them. And I hope that the committees shouldn't come out with dismissals and those things. Now, we'll come into details. Let's come with the first challenge, which is the funding. Of course, like you've stated, I'm a self-appointed ambassador of free SHS. Okay, I support it 150%. So sometimes I say that, okay, those who even criticize me say that, oh, I'm always against this government. I'm like, okay, if it were possible for free SHS to be the main topic for discussion every Saturday, you would have found out that no, I'm not against Ekufuado, because when it comes to free SHS, at least for the policy, I allowed him for it 150%. Of course, we also recognize that it's a constitutional imperative under Article 25. It's a constitutional imperative, but at least the fact that he took the first bold initiative. I also reckon what Mahama did, but he was more gradualist. Yes, he was more gradualist, that let me expand infrastructure first before, progressive. And Ekufuado says, look, let all of them go. Let's do the shift system. The shift system is not the best, but me, because I support it, I'm like, okay, we can live with it. Good. But now, the challenge is this. Look, there is no issue with funding, no. There is no issue. The real issue is that Ekufuado and his people are chopping the money and failing to prosecute corruption. That is where the real issue is.
How do you mean?
Good. Now, before Ekufuado became president, he went to England and he was interviewed by BBC. Ekufuado said the source of funding for free SHS in Ghana was going to be proceeds from corruption. That's what President Ekufuado said. He said he was going to fund free SHS from proceeds of the fight against corruption. So he was going to make sure he will fight corruption, so the NDC people who are stolen, he will bring all of them before court, prosecute and recover all the money. His own government appointees, he was going to fight. Verdict, today, 7 years on. How much proceeds has he recovered from the fight against corruption? Or was he throwing dust into our eyes? He said it. You guys don't have it. When I used to go on Joy FM, they would play it often. You hear Ekufuado. Does your producer have the tape? Let's try and play it. Because they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. That's what he said. And it was in the context of the fact that at that time, it was estimated that we lose about $3 billion annually to the fight against corruption. Or in other words, people were stealing about $3 billion from us annually. And he said he would stop it, and this was more than sufficient to fight corruption. So today, If they say there's no money and head teachers are performing magic, as Honorable Apak says, then it means that Akufo-Addo has what? Failed. Because the fight, because he hasn't fought corruption, he hasn't recovered. If you go by the Auditor General's report, even last year, so I can't remember the 2021 one, the irregularities were more than 19 billion Ghana cedis. Yes, 19 billion Ghana cedis. How much have we recovered through disallowance and surcharge? Mr. Johnson, it's not fighting, it's not issuing disallowances and surcharges like Domlevo used to do. It's not as strong as Domlevo, so you don't see much. The last report I saw, it was a paltry sum, some figure. It's not more than 200 million in terms of what had been recovered. The last report he did. And in that line,
what's the challenge in there? Why we see that misappropriation of public funds is ongoing, captured in the Auditor General's report yearly, but then the action that needs to be taken to recover these funds are not being taken. So what's the point?
Weak leaders. Johnson Ekwe is weak compared to Domlevo. You see how Domlevo was fighting. You see Domlevo caught Akufo-Addo or Safumafo that this matter, the $1 million thing, or what is the figure? The Kroll and Associates. And then they masterminded, they removed him. Thank God, even though the Supreme Court decision came a bit late, eventually the Supreme Court vindicated Domlevo. Yes.
You led that case?
Yeah, I led it. Yes, people were saying, oh, Martin, withdraw this case. I said, no, I'll not withdraw. Once we've caught Akufo-Addo pants down, let the court pronounce. And the court caught him, said Akufo-Addo, what he did was wrong. He was now micromanaging Domlevo's office like a human resources manager. You see, so the point is that Akufo-Addo is putting in weak leaders, very weak. He wants people to be like him. Yes, sir, yes, sir. Is it any wonder, this Mr. Ocansey, that how many? 3 years on, when Johnson Ekwe said he was going to issue a report on the 52.5 billion cedis that we can't find. The case Mr. Mike Aflu has been championing. 3 years on, still the report is not out. 3 years from, is it October 2020, right? That Ekwe Esedu wrote that he would come out with a report. Where is that money? Where is that money? So you see, when they say there's no money, and then people are even saying scrap free SHS, I'm like, oh my God, are we sure we understand what we are doing? Free SHS should never be scrapped. We have more than enough money. It's the stealing, like what Kennedy Japan said, that you're just stealing and what? Stashing it abroad like there's no tomorrow. That is where the problem is.
Now it's being funded
with
the oil money.
Yes, and that is where the problem is. You said you would fight corruption to fund free SHS. You come and then you find out that you can't even fight. You don't have the strength. You yourself, you are so corrupt. So corrupt. How are you going to fight? You don't have any moral compass to fight corruption because yourself, you put your brother as finance minister so that we borrow, then your family makes money through your finance minister's what? Company, data bank. Such a person, how are you going to fight corruption? When you are the epitome of corruption, when you are the mother serpent of corruption, when you are the clearing agent of corruption. I mean, it's such a joke. And that's why, you see, every now and then, I even repeat to Akufo-Addo, if not forgotten, if you go to Article 60, Clause 11, it says that, look, if the vice president and the president resign today, we can have early elections. There's a man who has said that he can't do anything. He's waiting for the new leader. So why don't the two of them go today? Let's have the elections within 3 months, because he's bereft of ideas. 52.5 billion, Mr. Ocansey, 3 years on, Ekwe Esiedu, Auditor General. Where is the report? 3 years on. Do you agree?
Have you petitioned the Auditor General on this matter?
Well, Mr. Flu has already petitioned, right? He took the case to Parliament. Speaker Bagbin, I think please help Mr. Flu. Let's go into this matter quickly. Because why are they delaying? Can't they hold this Auditor General? Can't they hold the, what do you call it, to the Minister for Finance? They should come and explain, the two of them, 52.5 billion, 3 years on. Where is the Auditor General's report on it? The money that they said some was with GCB and that they were looking for it. 3 years on. I mean, come on. Are we serious?
I've just received that petition.
Yes, please read it.
On this as well. So it's something that
we are not joking. We are not joking. Look.
Okay. Lion Diapakobi.
Please, I thought you were going to read the petition.
Yes, so
the second part. So let me come. The second part, the headmasters. Yes,
yes.
just 1 2 minutes. So as I said earlier, look, those headmasters who took the initiative, look, let me tell you, I commend them. That's for those who were not charging those monies to spend personally, but to help resolve some of the issues in the school. I commend them. Yes, so today you may be suffering. They may have interdicted you, but just know that, look, for those of you who weren't taking the money personally, you fought a good cause. Okay, we'll continue to support you. Minister for Education, Educhum, we beg you, please don't sack them. Look, there were problems. It's because your boss is suspended, right? Look, they tried to help a bad situation. Once you find that they weren't taking that money personally, but it was to help resolve some of those issues, please don't sack them. Sometimes these things happen. They happen, and so don't penalize them. They were trying to help a very bad situation. But remind President Kufuor that he said the source of funding for free SHS was going to be proceeds from the fight against corruption. Today he sits in office, Napaga Tia Sulemana, the lady who signed and approved for the illegal money to be paid, the NDA case. She's still in office. And
this is a case that you took up.
Yes,
so what's the status of that NDA case?
The case is being prosecuted in Tamale. I went there to listen, testify. Yet, Clara Napaga Tia Sulemana, who signed the final boss, even though OSP didn't prosecute it, and that's one of my beefs against OSP. Because of a tight connections with you, Ekufuor, she's still in office. You haven't sacked it.
There's a response from the Education Minister for you.
Yes.
This is a plea that you make.
Yes.
I want to take a listen. Take a look.
Judge, the system, regional directors made a determination that they should step aside. As the Minister for Education, I should not prejudge it. Headmaster worked so hard for us. They are determined, they are committed. When issues like this come up, we approach it with an open-mindedness. So I'll leave the process to the system that they have created to give them a fair hearing. Thank you.
The Education Minister there.
Yes.
Yes, indeed, in response to the issues that you raised. That's his position. Lawyer Piakubi.
Right, thank you very much. One problem I have always with discussing subject matter that we deviate too much, bringing in red herrings and things, is that sometimes when you politicize all subjects, you end up doing unnecessary propaganda. For me, the subject matter and the discussion is the problems of the heads of schools who, in their effort to probably try to do something extra, they have found themselves in difficulties. I think we stick to that. We will be able to prefer solutions rather than just ranting on issues that are not any issue in the subject matter. For me, I just received some information from one of headmasters that I know, and he says that it is not always the case that the headmasters have done anything wrong. And I want to associate myself with the minister's response. Let us subject it to investigation. At the end of the day, let's find those who have done something wrong, those who have done nothing wrong. And some of them deserve commendation, whilst others may be candidates for punishment. So let's wait until that time. And this headmaster is telling me that in some cases, these requests have been done by housemasters at their blind side, or house mistresses. And the levies are collected by them for a good cause in the dormitories and all that kind of thing, without the headmasters getting involved. In situations like this, and I like the response of the head of the minister, let us investigate. Let us not cast everybody into the burner because of allegations. Let these allegations be investigated and proven. And for me, every policy, be it from government, be it from school, be it from wherever, requires that there must be periodic review of policies. In fact, this free education thing, personally, I rooted for it. I have rooted for it at all times because of my personal circumstances. When I was a student, I struggled through school. In fact, had it not been some benevolent, supporters of my education, I would not be here because it was not possible. In my case, it was not just possible. Secondary school education was not possible. But somehow, God, the way He works, it opened an avenue for me. So I understand when students are crying because they cannot have education. I also understand when parents also feel that I would have done it, but I don't have any opportunity. So the free education, as all of us agree, let it stay. But let's continue to review the policy and see where, if it comes to the point that support could come from somewhere, why not? In fact, the last week, I visited my own alma mater, and I was motivated to support the school. In fact, I paid some money to the school, and I'm even preparing to donate some cement also to the school.
I see.
Nobody has asked me. In fact, the headmaster told us about a project that past students are doing, which has stalled because they are not paying. And right there, we made contributions. And so, if a headmaster is able to advertise the problems and challenges they face, and students or past students are prepared to support, I don't see anything wrong. And indeed, reference to the finance minister of his suggestion that those who can pay should pay, I support that position also.
You support that proposal by the finance minister?
Those who can pay, if they pay, they will also offset the cost of those who cannot pay.
Right.
So it would be a good suggestion. Let us not say that because somebody said that everything must be free, everything must be, let's stay there. When somebody says, I throw a support, you say, we won't take because the man says it should be free. And it is a policy, it is running, it is live policy, and it will face challenges even along the course of time. But when the challenges come, let's also develop capacity to also, provide support so that it does not kill the idea. I am not in education, so the latest that I know is that this free education was expanded to even include school uniform. So even parents who could buy school uniform, they are not buying. So if a student or the student group or the PTA says that we are prepared to provide a uniform for our children, we should allow them to do it. And if PTA says that we are prepared to provide extra textbooks for our children, I don't see anything wrong with that. So let's rather encourage. In fact, in the United States, vice chancellors are not appointed from academia. Mm-mm. They come from business communities. They appoint business people who will come as vice chancellors, and their job is to find money to run the universities. And because of their network, their connections, and their skills in marketing, they end up, bringing resources into the school. So if the headmasters are being innovative, all that I could say is that let's encourage them to so be. So, but again, we need to distinguish between extortion and marketing.
Right.
So extortion is bad when you say that I should pay before my ward gets admission to the school. Then it means you're sending me back to the old system that you pay before you come. But if there is an appeal, and I'm attracted by the appeal, and I contribute to it, I don't think that we should criminalize anybody for supporting such a good initiative. And let us not say that because some people are being suspended, and I like it when you say they are suspended.
Right.
So suspension will allow for investigation. At the end of the day, I am very sure that most of them will be cleared of any charges preferred against them. At the end of the day, we will use them also as heroes and let other people follow suit. But again, I am against extortion. Pay before you come. That one will send us back. But ability to market your problem is one distinct characteristic that brings out success. So, in fact, one of my headmasters is involved, and I understand the situation. I understand that we are all contributing, and I understand that this contribution came from parents who were prepared to support the school. And myself, I'm not a parent in this school, but I'm a member of parliament in the area. I contribute.
One of the schools is in your constituency?
Yes, one of the schools is my constituency. And I know the guy, he comes to me personally in my house. He says, Honorable, is it the case that you can help us do this, do that? In fact, even jerseys, when they were playing the last inter-school thing, I bought jerseys for them because he didn't have. He came to me and said, Honorable, you want your kids to go out there looking sharp. I said, why not? I want my school to excel, and I want them to be look beautiful. Yes, Collins Senior High School. I donated T-shirts. I gave them even footballs. And I'm prepared to do it again. And I will do it again. The cement that if they come to me and say they want the cement, we can't wait for government. I will have to support. So let us do proper investigation and make sure that we don't criminalize the innocent headmasters.
Right.
This is not to say that they should go on a extortion spree.
Okay. We're getting a number of messages as we go on. The Kwame Amwako and Rabbi Bansi, I'll give you a couple of minutes on this because I know you just have a few words on this matter.
You have to indulge me before we finish.
And this one from Kwame Amwako says, Ghana Water Company has disconnected its water at the senior high schools in Kwewu, Bepong Senior High School, Kwewu Tafu Senior High School, St. John Technical for over a month now. This has occurred as a result of the arrears of water bills that the school owes. So, Kwame Amwako, I've taken notice of this message that you sent, making that appeal.
There is a message to me from Collins School. Say what the headmaster did is that one of the wards, his NHIS card had expired. So he asked the parent to deposit 200 Ghana cedis so they will renew the NHIS card.
And the NHIS is one of the requirements. You must have an NHIS card. As
what wrong has he committed?
Interesting.
And he's being punished for this.
Rabbi Bansi, a couple of minutes on this, please.
I want to agree with what has been shared. I think that, this situation reminds me of the how Ghana Ghana National College was established by teachers who, in the colonial areas, were deemed to have taken a step that contradicted policy by the colonial rulers. Unless there's evidence that these headmasters siphoned these funds or used them for any other purpose for which they were collected, I think that the GS should soften their stance on it and then temper justice with mercy. At the end of the day, you put them in leadership positions as headmasters. In some cases, they are leading more than 500, sometimes 1,000 students. If they don't take care of such sanitary conditions and there's outbreak of cholera or any disease, look at the impact it will have on the public, the larger picture. And so I think that we would wait for the investigations to conclude, but I do not see how they should be punished for taking these steps for the public good or for public purpose. If I may just shift it into the issue of the free SHS, because that seems to be easy for this. I have always said that I think that it was, yes, the Constitution says there should be free basic education. We've extended it to senior high school. But the manner in which it's been implemented over time raises a lot of concern. I was a beneficiary of the COCO scholarship, and I didn't even apply for it to go and lobby, or let me put it that way, those days when I was in secondary school. Once your parents or the people who are taking care of you provide evidence, I think it was from the district level, goes to the national level, that they are cocoa farmers. These things are looked at. Now, if we have a policy like that, like the cocoa scholarship, or the National Scholarship Secretariat, if they are parents that genuinely cannot afford, I believe that the structure should be in such a way that they could apply to take advantage of these existing structures instead of making it a wholesale, because it is the wholesale implementation that would give room for the abuse and the corruption that Senior Martin Tebu speaks about. But be that as it may, it seems to have come to stay. And as we go forward, we can only hope that it will be implemented in such a way that it will actually reach those that are supposed to benefit from it. Because these days you have parents complaining that even though they do not pay the school fees, the other things that they are asked to pay along these lines end up being more than, you know, what they would have paid in the school fees. So yes, it's very good that we should make education very free and accessible to those that are needy and will need it. But it should not be implemented in such a way that it will lead to greater harm than good. And so I think we've been implementing it for almost 7 years now. If there are opportunities to review and reform it so that it will have more impact and be more beneficial, I think we should consider some of these backlashes and then put them in a reform or a review.
Great. And finally, Dr. Clement Park on this matter.
I am glad that we all agree here that the program is a good program. It's a good policy. But it is challenged. And that is why the review is important. And review does not mean cancel. Every stakeholder has agreed that we must review. Even elements within the current ruling party and government agreed that we must review. The staff level agreement that they are all talking about review, and it will help us. For example, why are we still saying that PTAs should play a peripheral role when we know the role of PTAs? Okay. Why are we still saying today, as we speak, that we are providing free Wi-Fi when we know that we are not getting value for money? And yet we have signed a contract and we are providing a service that it is not benefiting the students. And from the estimates that we looked at only a few days ago, for the year in question, internet to schools, 56 million.
That's for 2024.
Exactly. So, you see, it is not about the resources going to the program. We are told that we have expended, or at least we have allocated and approved 13 billion. But is that money truly going to the core issues that need to be addressed? But we see all kinds of cost areas that are difficult to define. There is no transparency. All these 7 years, we have not seen an audited report. So we don't really know where the funding has been going to. This is where the issue is. Because I believe that enough allocations are being made. The issue is whether or not the monies are going to the cost centers that government itself has identified and defined as free.
Right.
That is why we must.
And maybe that's where maybe Parliament, the education committee.
I've been raising this. You are with me in Parliament. You know I've been raising these matters severally.
Well, the education committee will do a bit more on this. Thank you. He's a deputy ranking, so it is the man to take up that charge.
And I've been raising these issues. You bear me out.
Indeed, indeed. We've been talking. Now, this leads us to the next issue on the lithium fine. So, and Lawyer Martin Gbebo has had his take a number of times on this matter. We have a special session. I say special because there's going to be a few presentations, PowerPoint presentations here and there, because we want the public to also have different views of this matter. So Bright Simmons, who is the Vice President of Imani Africa, is going to be joining us. What we'll do with him is that we're going to have a full PowerPoint presentation on the lithium fine and the CSO's position, specifically the research that Imani and the CSOs have done on this matter. This week, there was a meeting with the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources between the CSOs and him, and a few things came up. Bright Simmons is going to give us some very interesting detail on this lithium find. But this is Samuel Kudjato. He's come to join the former Chief Justice of Akofo. Samuel Kudjato is a member of the Council of State and a very renowned private legal practitioner. This is what he said about this lithium agreement. Take a look.
Lithium agreement is not in the interest of Ghana. That's my view. And if you all agree with me, then let us make a statement in support of the IEA to say that we do not think that this agreement is in the interest of Ghana and that we need to relook at this matter. Let us tell whoever is signing this document and I don't even want to condemn our MPs. We will caution them and advise them to do what is what? Right.
It's time for golden season. Time to try your luck. The rules are simple. You can place bets on any sports event. Get promotional tickets. Take part in prize draws. What's the season? It's golden season. Time to try your luck. Use the promo code to get your welcome bonus.
This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Bet responsibly, not for persons below 18 years. Gambling can be...
Jingle bells all the way to a magical Christmas with Melcom this December. From 4th December 2023 to 7th January 2024. Save big with discounts up to 60% on countless items at any Melcom store nationwide. This offer is valid in store and online at www.melcom.com. Terms and conditions apply. Melcom, where Santa shops.
Hey, na no fe ukwanya won kasa kasa ubwafo wusi. Enya me brother Mr. Happiness na ehame. Me see wo hu say Ghana Post aye fast, reliable and affordable nti. Na nsen na numa ye ni de edwanya kuma me di e de kwama no e fa Ghana Post. Wa di ni nyina. Ene se wasa aswan masa kodidwa me de kwa Ghana Post yo. We Kobi kakra Ghana Post,
the most affordable delivery option for food and merchandise from Ghana to everywhere in the world. Connect with us today and see for yourself. Ghana Post, smart, secure deliveries.
Package, no. In less than 5 days, Ghana Post, they make life the big. Ghana Post will deliver to you wherever you are in the world.
Mac Brown's Kitchen. Mac Brown's Kitchen.
I'm ready to send me to Mac Brown's Kitchen. New season, new stations. Hey, Mac Brown's Kitchen. Na me hu mo TV so ache. Ani o mo hu ya ache. Ba de nyamia ye ni. Enche kra no. Ba TV3. Mimi de bia. Ani 5 to 6 p.m. Na ya ba hwa mo wate. Me ni kunu me ma ya ba show sesako Ghana fodo.
McBrown's Kitchen shows this and every Saturday at 5 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by Herbal.
Akuma onion paste.
Uzi abobo ya anu all shall pass. Domu ye mi bia metale musti. Who ye spiritual. Tuni baby. Se bibia make bia ka all shall pass. Okay. Aba finye metale musti. All shall pass. Omo ye den ye gusu jinemu. All shall pass. Awelende. Because ya baba gusu jinemu. All shall pass. That's what I say. Hey, if you went well, when I say me papa CBC, abobo ya do na ya ba. Let jirebusa. Yeah, the ba na ya tun wa sam. Dugo say obi kro nwa. E bia wa ko do gusu go kaneshi. What I say, ohu, all shall pass. E be tun kana kuma say, hey. All shall pass. E bi kwa na no pa ni kuna bona sun. All shall pass. All shall pass. All shall pass.
All Shall Pass shows Sundays at 5 p.m. on TV3.
And the brand new season of Drama in the Kitchen. The drama keeps sizzling more and more.
You like doing this. Is it because you think you are older than me or what? Who told Kwesi about me taking care of my boyfriend because he has lost his job? Who told him? I don't know.
This week on the show, we have friends battling it out in the kitchen. Tina and Chloe are friends for life, but when it got down to a little bit of gossip, they may have been separated and the friendship put on the back burner. Will they be able to reignite what has been a friendship of 24 years? A large bite. Okay. Something like gossip shouldn't come in the way of two friends. This week on Drama in the Kitchen, as we see if these friends can cook their way back to being BFFs.
Drama in the Kitchen shows Sundays at 4 p.m. on TV3. Brought to you by Tasty Tom.
The winner of Talented Kids Season 14 is Abigail!
It is here again. This season on Talented Kids is inter-school competition.
If I like Mike Tyson, me dance like Michael Jackson, me kill a lion like Samson.
Join the all-new inter-school Talented Kids competition this season, calling on institutions, parents, and individuals who recognize the talent in children aged 6 to 12. Auditions will take place at the Aviation Social Center on December 23rd in Accra, Akuma FM in Kumasi on January 9, and Connect FM in Takrade on January 11. Don't miss this opportunity to make your school proud. Talented Kids, free to play. I know I can. I know I
The lithium agreement is not in the interest of Ghana. That's my view. And if you all agree with me, then let us make a statement in support of the IEA to say that we do not think that this agreement is in the interest of Ghana and that we need to relook at this matter. Let us tell whoever is signing this document, and I don't even want to condemn our MPs, we will caution them and advise them to do what is what? Right.
We cannot. And to help us get a bit more into it, as we've started over the last couple of weeks, Bright Simmons is the Honorary Vice President of Imani Africa. He has been doing a lot of work in this particular space, and he understands especially how such agreements should play out. And he's joining us. Mr. Simmons, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us here on Key Point.
Good morning, Alfred. Thank you for having me.
Great. Now, let's start off with this. First off, this lithium that we have found as a country, why is it important in the scheme of things as we have in that we should not be treating it like any other mineral that we have found as a country?
So the way we see it is exactly the way you've put it. It's a potential game changer. So it requires imagination. We have to be more innovative. We have to have a certain innovative mindset as a country to handle the opportunity. And one of the challenges we have is that there's been a failure of imagination among the policy-making class. Lithium has been called the white gold because, this mineral was discovered 200 years ago. And when it was then discovered, its primary use was in medicine. So it was used to manage psychological conditions like mania, bipolar disorder, and things like that. Over time, it began to be apparent that it's very good for certain applications in ceramics. So we started to use it also in ceramics. What has made it different over the year, what is now different, compared to those years, decades ago, is that now, because of its lightweight nature and the fact that it's a very good conductor of electricity, is the most important, one of the most important minerals or metals that is used in car batteries. But I'm talking about electric car batteries, so not the batteries that you use in your combustion engine, the one that you use petrol, but these ones are the ones that you charge, these electric vehicles that are becoming all the rage. They are not yet as popular in Ghana, but in many parts of the world, they're becoming very popular. In recent times, maybe 70% or more of the cars sold in major Chinese cities have all been electric vehicles. Each one of those cars need a battery, and lithium is one of the most important metals in making these batteries. 85% going to 90%, all the lithium mined in the world today go into making car batteries for electric vehicles. On top of that, we expect, because of the transition towards more green energy, away from fossil fuels like petrol and gasoline and all of that, diesel and all of that, that transition means more electric vehicles, more usage of solar panels. Solar panels require batteries, electric vehicles require batteries, wind mills require batteries. The lithium is the metal that is used to create the batteries or to produce the batteries that go into all these applications. So because of that, there's an expectation that demand for the lithium will go through the roof. It will be the metal that will see the highest growth in demand in the next 25 years going forward. So what that means is with increasing demand will be increasing price and increasing value and increasing importance. So if you have that metal in your country, people want to do a deal with you to get access to it. That's what made this so exciting. It's important, though, that we bear in mind that to make the batteries, you don't only need the lithium. You need other things beyond the lithium, and you have to keep that in mind if they're going to be able to make batteries in your own country.
And that's some detail there. And
because indeed, some of the minerals that we need to make the batteries beyond the lithium, we also have in Ghana. We have some iron ore, we have some graphite, we have some mica, we have some other minerals that have already been discovered in Ghana and not being fully produced. They are similar to what we have with the lithium. Some foreign company has made a discovery like graphite in the north, and we have to now have a more strategic approach into what all of these minerals mean if ever we want to be part of this grand transition to green energy and to clean tech. So that is why lithium is so important.
Now, thank you. Now, with this background giving and why this lithium is so important and we cannot treat it like any other, the Simmons, anytime the question about this deal with Bavaria BV Ghana Limited comes up, the minister and the Minerals Commission are quick to refer to what is in there for us. So they talk about royalty rate of 10% on the lithium and all associated minerals, which is the current one is 5% for the mining sector, corporate income tax of 35%, the freed carried interest of 13%, they say it's 10% for what we have now, and then also Get Fund 2.5%, and NHIL 2.5%, and Growth and Sustainability Levy 1%, and then the setting up of the Community Development Agreement Fund of 1%, and a few others that they have mentioned. So what exactly is wrong with this Bavaria BV Ghana Limited deal with the government of Ghana on this lithium fund? Let's get into it.
First, the challenge that we have with the way that the ministry and the ministerial commissions describe things is that they're not paying attention to the fact that this is a green mineral. And as I've tried to explain, the green mineral is a future mineral. All the other minerals we have are past minerals. So your gold, your oil, and the rest of it is old economy. Lithium, cobalt, nickel, map to the new economy. So you cannot use old benchmarks to try and get a grasp of it. So if you mention all the benefits that they say we are getting, but they are not paying attention to the fact that in the case of lithium, for instance, the capital expenditure to get it out of the ground and to derive value from it is much lower than, say, gold. Some companies in the country lose money on gold when the price tanks because it's so capital intensive and it's so highly traded that the pricing can be extremely, extremely problematic. Now, in the case of lithium, we know from the numbers that the company that is going to do the mine, Atlantic Lithium, has shown us that the capital expenditure is very low. They're going to spend less than $200 million for the entire operation over the lifetime of the mine. So they're not spending a lot of money because the way the processes that they have to go through to get the lithium in this early stage, where they are only doing dense media separation and doing flotation maybe much later on, it's not very intensive like deep shaft mining or things like that. So that's one point. The second point is that historically, we've gained more from minerals when we've negotiated with foreign investors than this particular instance. So they claim that that the deal that we've cut this time around is so favorable to the country, cannot be upheld by according to the historical record. The historical record is very clear. In the 70s, we had 55% control of our natural resources. Our stake in all the mines were either that we owned it outright, we owned most of the gold mines outright, and then for the others, we had at least 55% in them. They would say, okay, but in the 70s, that was because there was the nationalization drive, so it's a different context. Well, that principle began before the nationalization drive, because in 69, the government negotiated 20% equity in Ashanti Gold with an option to buy an additional 20%. Even after we decided that because of mismanagement, state control and state management of minerals is not in our interest, we decided that in the late 80s after we went to the IMF and the World Bank. Even when we decided that, we still went into joint ventures. So we did a deal for the Konongo Mine project with Southern Cross Mining, for instance, where we got 30%. So all I'm trying to explain is that the historical record is in complete variance, or at complete variance, with what the minister and the ministerial commissions, obviously the minister is guided by the minerals commissions, from what the mineral commissions have been trying to push across. In simple terms, it's not true. We've had much higher share, higher stake in our mineral resources in the past, all the way through the 60s into the 80s. The issue was that we mismanaged those resources. We were not able to manage them well, which is why we have to rely more and more on foreign investors, in the foreign private sector investors. It doesn't mean though that we must continue to create conditions in which foreign investors get a better share all the time. We have the means to begin to improve our management capacity so that we can continue to increase the amount of share that we gain. So that is, in short, a response to the specific issue of whether or not the terms in the agreement are the best. So number one, you have to look at the economics of the project, and the economics of this project are that it's highly profitable because of the nature of the mine in itself. Number two, you have to look at our history, not just last decade or last 2 decades, but the span of our history. And you recognize that the truth of the matter is that we used to get way more out of our minerals than we get today. We just mismanaged what we were getting. Number three, we have a situation where invariably there are specific challenges with the agreement, which some of us have raised and which on this call I hope for the opportunity to raise, and which the minister must avert his mind to. So rather than talking in general terms that this is good, why not tackle the specific challenges that we've raised about the deal?
I see. Now, so it's been underscored, as you indicated, that contrary to what the minister and the Minerals Commission makes the point, this is not in the best interest of us or as a country at this point, the current nature of the deal. But if you look at the specifics, as you were just talking about, the likes of, in fact, if I look at the write-up of investment lawyer Fuichikata and the former Minerals Commission chief Kofi Ansah, they attempt to simplify the calculation of how much we stand to gain as a country. So, for instance, they say that royalty plus levy equals 11% of, say, 100 Ghana cedis. If you look at the revenue, if you put it at 100 cedis, income tax of 24 cedis, 50 pesos, dividend of 6 cedis. These add up to 41 cedis, 50 pesos for government versus 39 cedis, 50 pesos for the investors, if you put the entire revenue to, say, 100 cedis for that matter. Now, looking at this, is this a certainty? And can this be the case in absolute terms, based on the details as you know?
Yes, we're very happy that eminent voices like the ones that you mentioned, Mr. Chikata, Mr. Ansah, have decided to join the fray. This is really very welcome. We hope that another policy issues, other eminent voices also continue to do so. The numbers that they give are illustrative numbers. They are based on assumptions. So if the price was, if the revenue was 100, then in those circumstances, this is what you might get, etc., etc. The truth of the matter, though, is that all those assumptions depend on real market conditions. So, for instance, the amount of profit that might come out of it will be dependent on the costs. So it will be dependent on agreements that the company makes with its contractors. It will depend on its finance costs, how it raises money, for instance. How much, in fact, some of the revenue numbers are even tied to how much it decides to sell the output for, the spodumene concentrate, which is the main output that the mine in the beginning will begin to produce. The community development fund that they say they will create, they are responsible for creating it based on agreements they will sign with the community. We don't know the terms of those agreements. We don't know how much of that will actually go to the people in the end, or how much will go to high salaries for people that they put in charge of that fund. We don't know any of this, right? So most of this is illustrative. And it's the same way that the IEA also did illustrative analysis to prove that we're losing money. So it depends on the assumptions you choose, because we are looking into the future. What we want to focus on are specific issues in the agreement where, to our mind, already there are problems. So, for instance, how you calculate the royalties that, you know, the two eminent gentlemen mentioned is based on the price you get when you sell the product. But the truth of the matter is that the price in this agreement, in this context, that price is dictated by off-take agreements that the company has signed. So the company has decided to sell forward 50% to a company in the US called Piedmont, because Piedmont is giving its money, about $17 million, to do the exploration to get to this point where it's managed to get a lease from Ghana. Now, that $70 million investment presupposes that this company, Piedmont, will get a strategic pricing. We'll get strategic pricing from them. The pricing will not be open market pricing. It will be based on the fact that they need Piedmont. So you have to discount the pricing in order for Piedmont to also take the risk of giving you this money upfront. So we are arguing that, yes, they can do those things, but when it comes to how we calculate the revenue on which we charge royalties, there has to be some price discovery regime so that they don't end up doing these non-arm's length transactions where, you know, because the other party is doing some other thing for them, they discount the price of the mineral significantly, and then it hits us because we only get a percentage of the sales. So if, for instance, they need money to do Ivory Coast, and Piedmont gives them money to do Ivory Coast, and because of that, they say discounts the price of the spot demand for us. In the current setup, we can only act when they need export permits, but by that time it's too late because those arrangements are already in place, and you are locked into it. And unless you want to get zero, you have to approve for the export to go ahead. Now, the export goes ahead, the money that gets made, often many months later, you look at the numbers, you find out the royalties you are getting is very low. So we propose that there should be a minerals discovery, a pricing discovery, for instance, around the royalties. There are specific issues around equity, where we get a certain stake in the mine. It's about 13%. We say, look, 13% may sound great if you are doing gold and other minerals where these are old economy commodities, and there isn't much room for margin for margin gaming. In this new green economy, some of these minerals are going to be such high demand, or there could be shifts in technology that are so abrupt that their value increases dramatically. In those circumstances, they may end up recovering their investment much earlier. In fact, already they expect that in 5 months, they will have recovered the cost of the actual capex, the capital expenditure, because it's so small. So all of these things cancel for one thing. We need to get more equity because it's a very different type of operation compared to the ones that we are used to, like gold, bauxite, and the rest. So we need to use something we call options in finance, which allows us the flexibility by giving us the right, but not the obligation, to acquire more of the local company that owns the asset when the economics improve dramatically. We also want to draw attention to the fact that even though lithium is looking so brilliant, there is a prospect that because there are competing technologies that do not use lithium, like sodium ion, like some selenium batteries that are coming up, and the fact that we are recycling a lot of old batteries to generate new lithium to use in new batteries, all of this will affect demand dramatically. And so we need to understand that when it comes to owning equity in the find, it's not all rosy, because the equity that the type where we have to also pay money to run the mine comes with risk. So you need to have situations where you have the option to exercise, not to offside, etc., which is exactly what MEF has done. It's not clear why the government is not doing it for the parts of the ownership that accrue to the state, as opposed to a subsidiary of the state, in this case, MEF. We know that pricing can be very volatile. Pricing has moved from $8,000 to $1,000 in November 2022 to just $16,500 in recent days. Now, what that tells us is that in the same way, it can also go up to 200,000. And in those circumstances, you want to create a variable royalty structure where the royalties change. So there's a fixed bottom, which is the 10%. But if the economics looks so good beyond a certain point, then we can get more royalty. We should get more royalty. If you are making profits that are fantastic, then we need that kind of windfall arrangement. But we can't rely on windfall arrangements in general taxation, because that affects the entire sector. All right, this could be a mineral per mineral issue, or at least a green mineral issue. So, and the fact of the matter is that we've done this in the past. In the past, we used to have a bottom, even for general minerals like gold and the rest, we used to have a bottom royalty, and then things are dramatically good for the company. We move on to having increasing our share of the revenues.
Now, based on what you have just shared with us and what you talk about, all the uncertainties in there, the Minerals Commission, and indeed the detail they gave about this particular deal, they put the value of this deal to a little over $1,000 per ton from what we saw earlier. Now, would you support the call for a mechanism to be inserted in the agreement such that if the economic gains change dramatically, which actually could happen, at least looking at the huge uncertainties in the lithium space, Ghana's revenue share and the equity holdings in there could also correspondingly increase, so that we're not going to be fixed to this amount in this deal when there's a probability that the value of lithium would go up?
Yes, as I've already explained, the idea of a variable royalty structure makes a lot of sense. You have a base minimum, a floor, and then when the economics transform or change dramatically, you adjust it. There's an automatic adjustment mechanism that increases it. So, for instance, just a year ago, spodumene concentrate, which is the main output from the mine that we are developing at Ewuya, or Atlantic Lithium is developing at Ewuya, was in excess of $8,000 in some places, ranging from $4,000 to $6,000 in others. Now it's above $1,000. So if there's a prospect that it can go back up to 8,000, or you move beyond even the current mineral that is being produced, which is the spodumene concentrate, and start to introduce more higher value chemical derivatives like lithium carbonate or hydroxide, then you are talking about a situation where the main output of the mine goes up to like $80,000, like it did last year, November, when lithium hydroxide and the like were selling for $80,000. So if you benchmark that price to the lithium oxide in our spodumene, you get a sense, because it's linearly correlated, you get a sense of how high this could have gone. So in short, we are saying that the economics can change dramatically because this is such a volatile space. You should have the flexibility to benefit more, and not just in the royalty terms. We're also saying that over time, the investors recover their money very quickly if the price goes up and stays up. Already, even at current price and at the pricing that they use for their DFS, their feasibility study, that pricing was about $1,600. On that pricing, they get their money back from the plant that they are building to do the spodumene concentrate. They get their money back in 5 months. So there's no reason why an investor that gets their money back in 5 months and then in about 2 years will have fully recovered all other expenses, etc., and made enough profit, should continue to own 87%, right? Or in the case, assuming that we buy through MEF, should own 80%. There should be a way in which, as they recover their investment, we have the option to claw back some of the equity. So these are all creative options that we've suggested, and it doesn't really hurt for the parliament, now that they are going to be seized with this issue, to insist on these things. And maybe the government, even before it sends it to parliament, given all the feedback that is coming, should consider renegotiating the agreement before it sends it to parliament.
Now, I'm looking at the agreement right now, portions of it. A major aspect of this whole transaction, per my initial analysis, is the decision by Ghana to buy through the Minerals Income and Investment Fund more stake in Atlantic Lithium at a cost nearly twice the amount of money that the company's own backers initially invested in Ghana. I mean, does that raise any concerns for you?
Yes, because we get a sense of the strategic issues at play. This company, as you've rightly pointed out, had cash flow issues. It doesn't really have cash flow because it doesn't really, it's not at the stage where it produces anything anywhere in the world, right? It's a very early stage company. It's a startup. So it didn't have money to invest in Ghana. And what it did was it signed an agreement with an American company called Piedmont, which had some deals with Tesla to produce or to supply some inputs for Tesla's car batteries, the batteries that go into the EV. So this company had a source in North Carolina, in North America, and a source of lithium, I mean. But they were having a lot of regulatory issues with, some of the people that stay near the mine, where they wanted to do the mining, protesting, and insisting that it's going to pollute their waters and they will not allow the lithium to be mined. So when Ghana became an option, when the option to get lithium from Ghana became an option, this company put in about $17 million into Atlantic Lithium to allow Atlantic Lithium to do all the exploration and all the stuff that they've done to date and acquire the license. So now we realize that, there's some goodness there, and we want to also buy in at 32%. We want to buy at about $32.9 million, which is almost double what that company has invested. What we are arguing for is that the price to us, because we are also a strategic and an anchor investor, this company is still not getting money from all over the place, right? Because of where we stand in, we should also, and we will be negotiating for a long time before some others have also tried to come in, but we've been negotiating before then. We should by now have had the price just a little above what Piedmont got, because it's our lithium, and because we are also a strategic supporter, given all the concerns we're giving them. They've been in Ivory Coast for almost 6 years. They have not even progressed from application to getting a full pre-mining lease. So we've been very good to them, is what I'm trying to say. Given that we've been very good to them, and we've expedited things for them and all of those things, and now they are talking about additional benefits that we may be giving them, doing a bulk customer permit, so that their electricity price will be about half what it should be. All of these concessions should earn us a better price than they got in the implied deals in the implied pricing that they gave to Piedmont, in the deals that they made with Piedmont. So that's the argument that we are making around some of these valuation issues. We have huge challenges with MEF in the way that it goes about communicating the so-called benefits. It's not very rigorous. They've said, for instance, that they've already made a gain of about 30-something% just by buying, having the deal, signing the deal to buy at 26 cents, because for a short period of time, the price went up to 34 cents. So they have already logged in some gains. How does that make sense when you've not even paid for the shares? You've not sold the shares to actually know how much you'll have realized as gains. And on top of that, the price of the stock changes all the time. So you have to take a longer term point of view. If you take a longer term point of view, pricing has gone down from a high of about 41 cents to now about 25 cents. So if we are being careful, we will even say that this stock has lost about 40% of its value this year. Is it the kind of stock you want to pay 26 cents for when it's now 25 cents? It could potentially go down more. So it's a long-term play you have to do. And that long-term play for a company this young, which has had this volatility in its stock price, and to do proper strategic management, proper strategic horizon forecasting about the factors that would determine its long-term value. So those factors is what we want to see. We know, for instance, that there's competition in terms of the technologies that are competing to become the standard for electric vehicles. Sodium-ion is doing very well. The Americans gave money to NASA and we did some research. They now come up with selenium sulfate. There are so many technologies for batteries coming up. Some of them will compete with lithium. Then there is also the fact that lithium has massive advantages in energy density and other factors. Or you have to look at that balance and then create some kind of forecasting model that gives an idea of the likely long-term value of this asset. And that is what you have to convince us has been rigorously done. The second thing is that on top of doing that, you need then to also protect the share. You get it? So if now they say they want 3% in the parent company and 6% in the local company. Okay, fine. We used to have 16.8% in Ashanti Gold because of the history. We used to own it. We used to own it. We had to have like 55%. Mm-hmm. We used to be majority shareholders. And then we privatized and it went overseas, went to the stock exchange, went to international stock exchange. Over time, we came down to 16.8%. Today, we are 0.04%. Why? Because whenever the company goes and raises money, as the company becomes more attractive and it raises monetary and higher valuation, our stake was diluted down. So what we are asking is, what exactly is MEF's strategy to prevent that from happening? And they claim they have the right to invest in subsequent raises. But we have the right to invest in subsequent raises for Ashanti Gold as well. We just didn't have the money. This is a country that, look at our current circumstances, going to the IMF, it's not going to be possible. So the way other investors do it is to do something we call weighted average or full ratchet rounds, where every time you are raising money again, we adjust the valuation of our existing stake to ensure that you are not diluting us too much. I don't understand why MEF is being hesitant at being clear about that prospect. The evaluation of the asset itself is very questionable because they've given us different numbers at different times. In one of their releases earlier, they said it was $1.4 billion, the way they value the asset. Recently, they say they think it's $691 million. As I've said, all of those assumptions they are using are very hypothetical. What has actually happened is we know Piedmont has used strategic investment strategies to acquire shares. And the pricing that Piedmont has got the shares for is about a third what they are going to get. So the question is, if Piedmont, because of the fact that it gave them money upfront when they needed it the most, could get such a great deal, how are we not using the fact that we're giving them all of these benefits? Like I said, we've expedited their mining lease application. They've been in Ivory Coast all this while. Ivory Coast has not done that. We've done all manner of things for them. So why can't we get a better deal than what is being posed? Also, they have to show us the analysis. They say they've used intrinsic value to measure it. But intrinsic value, when you have a stock this volatile, it requires that you have a margin of safety, right? You don't just because the discounted cash flow that we have from the feasibility study does not take into account, but it's not reflected in sensitivity analysis inside the feasibility study about the changes in pricing going forward. So that discounted cash flow analysis could be completely upended if the price of lithium continues to seesaw. So you need to adjust for historic volatility. And when you adjust for historic volatility, your intrinsic value of the asset, if you take into account the fact that it's very risky, then like every elementary financial analysis, you do a risk adjustment. And that will give you a sense of the true intrinsic value of this asset. And if, of course, the warrants that they want to buy at 36 cents, why would you want to buy at 36 cents? You want to see some kind of Blasco's valuation method that takes into account also the historic volatility. And then it has all the other parameters, and you share this with the public. You don't share things where that sounds like it's a propaganda for a political party, right? It's a sovereign wealth fund. It's a technical organization. We are supposed to trust the things that it says. And so far, the data that has been given to us is not very helpful for independent analysts to come to any view. So our position is that the valuation that MEF has been throwing about is questionable. The gains that they claim to have made is unsupported. And therefore, we expect to see much better analysis going forward before Ghana allows them to buy that. And already they've committed to buy. They haven't paid. They want to buy more warrants and the rest. This is really, really, really unhelpful. The other thing is the credibility issue that this company has. This company has gone on record few years back, about 2 years back, to claim a year back, where they claimed that they already had the mining license and all that they needed to go to production, but they didn't have it. Recently, they claimed to have a 10-year tax holiday.
And really appreciate that detail that you give in this presentation. On the issue of the tax holidays, and these are matters that for you as members of parliament, and let me start with you, don't want quickly, because it's going to come to parliament for ratification. There cannot be said to be an agreement yet, right, until ratification is done. So, quickly, what are the issues that for you
well, technically,
quickly?
There is an agreement because there's a document that speaks to some agreement. So there is a tentative agreement. But constitutionally, it needs to be ratified before effect is given to it. Mm-hmm. And that is what they will do when they bring it to Parliament. And then, fortunately, we have the opportunity to, interrogate all the various clauses. But let me put it on record. Mm-hmm. This is definitely a very huge improvement on the past natural resource contracts. Very huge improvement on that.
But then again,
we will suggest certain areas where we need to improve upon, particularly the penalties for default and performance guarantees and the local content areas.
Okay.
Those areas we have to look at it. But this is hugely an improved natural resource contract. But that brings us to the realization that we may have to go back and look at past natural resource contracts because some of them are very unconscionable. So based on unconscionability and not fit for purpose
issues
and not
will have to be dealt with, indeed.
Not equitable provisions, we can look at them back. But this is a very good beginning. Nevertheless, if it comes and there are certain suggestions we have to make it more viable, we will do so. And let us not also wish away Parliament's very diligent eyes that will apply to the contract.
Lawyer, Martin, I'll skip you to Dr. Clement Park.
Yes, Alfred, very, very briefly. I think that the argument is not about exploring and taking advantage of our natural resources. The case is about how best we can exploit that to our benefit. And I agree with those who have said that we need to be cautious in the way we deal with this, given past experiences and looking at the future. So if we have to slow down, to have a lot more broader consultation to factor in what we need to for broad acceptability in the national interest, as has been indicated by senior statesmen and women. I'm not even talking about we the politicians. We ought to do so.
Great.
And I think that is what Ghanaians are calling for.
Thank you. Bobby Banson.
Well, Alfred, I think Mr. Bright Simmons has done very justice to the issue at hand. And what I appreciate is that sometimes when you hear criticism to such policies or such agreements, you don't hear alternate proposals. They merely just want to say it's bad, it's bad, it's bad, without giving alternate proposals. I think when you listen to Mr. Simmons, he does not necessarily say the agreement or the proposed agreement, I'd rather put it that way, subject to ratification of Parliament, is inherently bad. He admits that it may be some form of improvement, but he has highlighted areas where he thinks there could have been further improvement considering the international regime of such transactions. And I hope that if it goes to Parliament, we would have a very extensive discussions by Parliament, and the minister or those that are proposing this agreement should not take, as for lack of a better word, a stubborn stand to say that whatever it is, this is what we must push through. There should be open for discussion so that this agreement will not suffer anything that when there's a change of government or when there's another regime, they will come back and then it will result in judgment debt against the country. So I hope that all these discussions are being taken into consideration by those that propose this document. And when it goes to Parliament, the requisite discussions will go into it. And the amendment, as has been proposed, backed with facts, science, data, as Mr. Simmons has done, will go into it, and then we will take it from there.
Indeed. I thank you so much. Bobby Banson is a private legal practitioner. He's a lecturer at the Ghana School of Law. Lawyer Martin Pebu, I really do appreciate your concession on this. Thank you so much. As also a private legal practitioner, also to you, the Honorable Andia Piakobi, a member of Parliament for the Asante Achim North constituency. And also,
my disappointment is that I thought this was going to be
let me also indeed. It's a continuous one. Yes. Let me bring Dr. Clement Park. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate you. A member of Parliament for the Bosa South constituency. And on behalf of the team, we appreciate your time. As I indicated last week, this allegation on the Comptroller and Accountant General putting the names of delegates on payroll, it's not true. And that is what we had to put on record. I am Alfred Ocansey. Have a good one.
This program is rated U. It contains no scene, action.